Hello, everyone, and welcome to the
Hello.
forest. Hello.
And hello to everyone on my end. Welcome to the Forge.
Yes, the forge in the
What great
forest.
alliteration.
I know. It works out. Welcome to the Ranger Roundtable. For those of you who are new to this segment, every Friday I try to drag an unsuspecting VTuber into my treehouse and then chat to them. But just about random things. Mostly it's like me asking people for webcomic, book, or TV series recommendations, and then trying to recommend my own and realizing they've already seen or read it, and then being like, oh, I'm basic. Anyway. Anyway, this is my second time on this channel. The first time it was with our science roundtable with Doc Vivi. Which was a lot of fun, very informative. I've never talked so much science with people, even at work. Like, we kind of just do our own thing and then go into the lab. But let me introduce myself for those of you on May's channel. I'm Sylfania. I'm a bilingual elven ranger VTuber, variety VTuber. I stream all sorts of things, mostly sort of RPG games like Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail. But apart from that, I play a bit of everything. Raging ADHD, so I can't keep a game. I can't play one game all the time. I need variety. Yeah, I also run D&D game on this channel. Have been running for 2.5 years. It's almost finished. Just need to get the balls to make the final mega dungeon, which is gonna take me a while because I like to overplan and make all the maps. Once that's done, it's like we're just gonna blast out those episodes and probably the campaign's gonna end. But yeah, that's me. Introduce yourself, Maeve.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I had water in my mouth.
Oh no!
I was just sipping away. Hello, my name is Maeve Morden. Sylfania, you already know me, but for those of you who don't, I am a dwarven VTuber. Specifically, I'm a hill dwarf from D&D lore. So I'm a little less stocky, a little more lean than your regular dwarf. But I'm still short. I'm a short queen. And I could still probably bench press you. I am also a science girly. I'll sometimes talk science on my channel, especially if I'm playing a game that's very topical. Like, I've been playing Jurassic World Evolution recently, and there's some science in that. Sometimes it annoys me and I feel like I need to correct it. Other times I'm like, oh yeah, this could be possible. I'm not bilingual. I took 1 semester of Russian, and the only thing I could remember how to say is "kalkila."
I mean, it's correct. It's good. It worked.
But I can read it even if I don't know what I'm reading. So there's that.
Good. Awesome. What kind of stuff do you usually stream?
I am a variety streamer also. So I've been streaming some mini painting, I've been streaming Jurassic World, I have a bunch of collab streams that I do, whether it's playing Grounded or Galaxy Burger, or I think come January I'm going to be playing the Dying Light franchise with a good pal of mine named Frickbrick. Yeah, I just play all sorts of stuff, whatever I feel like, really. I try to finish games, but sometimes I don't.
Yeah. Like, I have a problem when a friend of mine asked, like, so how many games are you, like, running at the moment? And also, it's not counting Genshin and Honkai, which just they don't have an end to their live games. You can't finish them, technically. There's always content in those games. And the only people who finish those games are the ones who play every single day for at least 3 hours for, like, 3 years. I don't have that kind of time. The only game I ever finished on stream was Hogwarts Legacy. And that's mostly because I finished the main story, did all the side quests, and then I was like, that's it? Alright. And I just stopped. Like, the game continued, like, you can still play, but I was like, I did all the achievements, I found all the extra battles. I'm like, well, not all of the Steam achievements, but all of, like, you know, this, like, I've looked all over the map, it was fun, the main story was underwhelming, side quests were great. I'm done with this game. And so yeah, that's kind of the only thing I finished on stream. Everything else is still ongoing, which is sad. I've been streaming for 2.5 years.
Yeah, that's just sometimes how it goes. And sometimes you think you really are gonna like a game, so you start streaming it, and then you realize you don't like the game, so you stop playing it.
Actually, yeah, never was my thing. I think the only thing I'm very reluctant to stream is horror games. And my way knows, because he's the one that recommended a bunch of games to me. It's mostly because I'm a big scaredy cat, and like anything with a jump scare in it, I will just my heartbeat goes through the roof. I'm not like, I can't go to sleep scared. I'm more of like, if you scare me too much, like my heart can actually stop because I'm so scared. So I'm like,
oh no.
I'm always really scared. I think I'm just bad at jump scares, and a lot of horror games, like, they go heavy on the jump scares. So
it's true.
It's funny because I scream. But like, I played Tomb Raider 1 with those pixel graphics last night, and I still got like jump scared 3 times.
Oh no.
I even knew, like, I walked into this ruin and I was like, okay, there's a dinosaur here, because when I was 12, it jump scared me. I'm like, I know it's here. And then it jump scared me and I screamed, and I was like, I knew it was coming. So yeah, I'm horrible at it. So I like, that's the only thing I avoid is like horror games. But I have this thing, I don't know if I told you about it, but I have this thing called the Wheel of Content.
Oh.
So I put all of the games I play, and then I rig it with 3 times as many Genshin and Honkais, because those games require a lot more attention.
Yeah.
And then I spin it every Sunday, and it tells me what I do that week.
Oh, that's kind of fun, actually.
Yeah, so this week it told me 3 Honkais, 1 Tomb Raider, and 1 horror stream, which I just came back from work really late, and I was like, well, not doing that. How convenient.
How convenient.
Next week it could tell me to play Baldur's Gate all week. I don't know. Whatever the wheel says I do. It also has, like, I put an option of, like, start a new game, which is I go through my Steam library and, like, I own, like, 200 games. Let's see which one I haven't played yet. But it's really good for helping decision fatigue, I realize.
Yeah, I could see how that would be the case. I have a wheel that I usually spin once I complete a game with all the games that someone has been like, oh, you should play this, or I'm like, oh, I want to play this, and I spin that little wheel and pick what I'm going to play next that way. But
that makes a lot more sense. But as I said, I find like I've been playing Genshin. That's what I started streaming with. And I've been playing it every single day for 2 hours for like a year, back in 2022. It was before I was a VTuber. It was like ages ago. I had like, my audience was all Russian. Like there was nobody English speaking in there. And then I think because I played Genshin for like so much, I overplayed it and I got bored of it. And so I dropped it for a year. And you know what happens to live games when you drop them for a year? You fall behind. And then
they change also.
Yeah, I never want, like, I felt like, I don't want to pick it up again. And I found like Honkai Star Rail was my addiction now. I was obsessed with it. But now I started coming back to it and I remembered how much fun I was having. And I find like this is something that happens with games a lot to me. Like if I overplay it, like obviously when like Clair Obscura just came out, I was like playing only it for 7 hours a day every day. And then about like 5-6 days in, like a week, I was like, all right, it's fun, but I can't keep playing this game.
I need a break. Step away.
And I find like, unfortunately, if you step away from a game, it's hard for me to go back to it unless the wheel forces me to. So there we go. I solved my ADHD problem.
I also find with returning to games, especially as time increases between the last time I played and when I decide to pick it up again, I get back into the game and I'm like, I have no idea what was happening.
Oh yeah.
What is happening?
No, unfortunately, like, I wish I had this kind of memory at work, but I don't. Like, to me, if you tell me, so, what happened in the last game? Like, so, we did this side quest, and there was this person, and I'm like, when'd you play this? 7 months ago. And then you come to work and you say, what'd you do yesterday in your experiment? I'm like, open notes, I look through numbers, like, shit, what did I do? I think I vaguely remember, it's like, you designed it, you made it up, you should know. And I'm like, debatable.
Yeah.
So
I wrote it down, so I didn't need to remember.
Exactly. Everybody's like, why are you walking around with an iPad everywhere? I'm like, yeah, because I have notes literally on everything, and they're synced between my phone and my computer, so that in case anybody says something, I write it down, like in quick writing, numbers. So if anybody's like, oh, we had this meeting 5 days ago, do you remember what happened? I just cycle to it, and I'm like, here are my notes on it. If you understand, there you go. Memory problems.
That's something that happens in our lab a lot. They're like, oh, do you have notes on blah, blah, blah? And it's like, oh, yeah, sure. And you pass them your notes, and they're like, wait, I don't know what's going on in your notes. Can you please explain it to me?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, yeah. And then you ask the same thing of them, and you can't tell what's going on in their notes. I think that happens a lot when labs don't have standardized note-taking.
Yeah, mine have doodles in them. I would like, if I'm in the middle of a talk and I'm bored, I just start drawing anime people.
Oh.
And then, but I never give, because my notes are in my iPad, so I never like give them to them. I usually have like I have the rough notebook, which is like, I just do whatever. And then I have the official notebook where I write down lab reports and stuff, and I can share those. And those are readable, because I make them readable. Those have an introduction, those have like a list of contents, and all of that discussion, images, links to things, links to other notes. Yeah, but that requires time to kind of rewrite it again.
Definitely, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, my system, I think, to keep everything together is it's much faster for me to whip up a PowerPoint than it is to write up one of those reports. Especially if we have like a lot of gels or images, which is most of my job. And so I
love PowerPoint slides.
Oh god.
I became presenting research.
Became an expert at PowerPoint. Like everybody's like, "Oh, you have an hour presentation tomorrow." I'm like, "Yeah, give me like 3 hours, I'll get you a PowerPoint." Like I already have so much prep that I'm like, I just have to move slides around, rearrange them, change some things, add 2 or 3 slides, and I'm done. At any point, just always ready to give a presentation. And so I have the PowerPoints dated, and all of my notes are dated, so sometimes I don't even know what I was doing, but if the date coincides, I'm like, okay, I just need to find a PowerPoint with this date. And hey, you know, if you're doing like 3 to 4 experiments in one day, and some of them take 2 weeks, some of them take 2 days, and you did like 2 things in one day, sometimes it's easier just to keep it by date and then figure out from there. But
for sure.
Yeah. Cool.
So I have a question about your Honkai Star Rail Genshin addiction. What's the draw for those games for you?
So I know a lot of people are like, oh no, is it the gacha? I mean, the gacha is a part of it. I'm a big gambler, but I sort of try to make myself a free-to-play. So like, I try to make it like, I'm not gonna spend money on this. This game gives you enough opportunities to earn the things so you can spend them on the gacha. And if you don't get what you want, them's the dice. That's the whole point. I know a lot of people have a problem and they spend a lot of money in it, and that's why they're all like, oh no, these games are evil. But generally, gacha games are kind of dull. But what I find is any games from Hoyoverse, which is the big company that makes Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, I don't know if you know ZZZ, like Zenless Zone Zero, all of those games, is that their writing team is insane. Like, I
think I came into one of your streams the other day, and you were talking about the two love interests together, about how they won't confirm them because they're Chinese, like the creators are Chinese, but I was like, oh, that's very interesting.
Oh no, I could tell you, I could wax poetic about this, but like in general, these games, what you find is like, I'll tell you why I like Genshin and Honkai. So Genshin is this at first it's this high fantasy story. So when you just land in this game, you're an alien sort of traveler who lost your twin, whether you're a guy or a girl, you can pick whoever you want to play. And your twin is missing, and you wake up and you don't know like what happened, and there's this weird fairy flying thing called Paimon that's annoying that just says, I'll take you through the world, let's go help find your sibling. And the first place you go is this like medieval Germany called Mondstadt, and the story is amazing, the world lore is enormous, and then like every location you're in, it's inspired by a country. So they have like medieval Europe, they have ancient China, then they have Japan, then they have like a mix between Middle East and India, but they do it like, it has 2 zones. It has both the desert and the jungle, and you're like, yeah, okay, this works. Then they have like the French location just called Fontaine, which is beautiful. Then they have this like Polynesian inspired area, and now they have like Russian inspired area, which is why I came back to play. I was waiting for the zone for like 4 years. It's finally here, but the problem is there's so many quests, like you can't, it's a linear kind of storyline. The main quest is a linear storyline. You can skip it, but you will really miss out on a lot of plot. So they advise you to play through at least the main quest. And it's the only game where I found that every single side quest feels like a main quest, because they give you so much more information about the world, the story, the people you interact with. It's crazy. And it's all most of it is voice acted. The game is just worth playing if you enjoy RPGs. Now, Genshin Impact is a real-time, like, open-world, kind of Legend of Zelda. You run around fighting things. Real-time combat with a group of 4 like, you have 4 characters you can swap between, but it's real-time. Now, Honkai is more of those traditional RPGs in term that it's also 4 members, but it's turn-based. So it's kind of like your Final Fantasies, your, I think, like Fire Emblem, that kind of stuff. And the story is a little bit more sci-fi. And they actually, why I like Honkai Star Rail, they actually invited an astrophysicist to advise on what kind of planets could be possible. Can we make a planet that's covered in, used to be lush, and then due to a certain cataclysmic event covered in ice, and there's a town that survives through, like, making the only town of people left that survives through, like, heat, and the astrophysicist is like, yeah, that is possible if this particular event happened, and they, the writers also, like, inspire... Like, they made a planet of festivities, which is like this big casino in space, and it's like a space fantasy, I'd say, which is like, it's a different appeal to Genshin, which is pure fantasy. But there's a fan theory that Genshin is actually an isolated planet world in the Honkai Star Rail universe, because the universe is so huge, and because the Genshin don't know that, like, they are living in a simulation or something. Because they keep saying the sky is fake, and there's people from other worlds that come there, but there's so few of them. And they are talking about the bigger universe, and they've been dropping hints about, like, stuff happening in Honkai Star. I don't know. Okay, this is all hypothetical, but this is the beauty of it. You have two games that have huge lore, huge stories, spanning over 5 years, and then the writers are like, hey, they're probably linked. Like, the fan theories are insane. And when they, like, release a character, right? When they say, oh, this is the new character you can get in this gacha, in this, casino draw. You give points and you hope that the character will, drop from this casino draw. But there's also a chance of it not dropping. Every character they do has backstory, has voice lines, has personalities involved in the plot. It's not just, oh, here's a cute girl for the purposes of having a cute girl. It's like, yeah, this is a cute girl, but actually she's the one you met in the story, and blah, blah, blah. They have this relevance and this personality.
I had no idea games like that were that deep.
Oh, no, listen, Genshin is like, I find one thing I've heard somebody say, it's like, it's a fantasy story with, it's a sad story with a hopeful ending. So every quest is a little bit sad, but there's always hope. Honkai is just trauma masquerading as game.
Oh no.
I swear, I found a quest where I was like, I feel personally attacked. Like, there was this girl who was like, my parents are overachievers, I came to this planet to do a job, but now I'm stuck in this dead-end thing. And I'm like, at the time I was feeling the same. I was like, guys, can you stop? Stop attacking me. And like,
stop attacking me.
In Honkai, most of the time, it's like, it's a story that masquerades as, oh yeah, we're just blasé, we're just having fun, but it's deeply troubling and deeply depressing. But it's life, So there's not much you can do. And, you move forward, but it is, like, there's characters that are canonically just dead in Honkai. They're full dead. In Genshin, they're like, oh, they're dead. No, they bring, like, they weren't actually dead. This was all simulation. They're back in, like, a few, like, at the end of a few quests. Here, it's like, nah. They're dead. Permanent.
It's like that Ice Age 3 meme with that weasel, I forget his name. I died, but I lived.
Exactly. That's what I feel like Genshin is. I know they killed off some side characters, but I feel they don't have the balls to kill any of the main characters. Yet. I don't know where they're gonna go with it. But with Honkai, literally, like, the first planet you go to, you meet this character, you speak to them, yeah, they're dead. And they were the villain, but not from the beginning. But they're dead. And then there's one of the characters you can actually pull from a gacha who's permanently dead now.
Wait. Oh.
And I was like,
wait,
what?
if you can pull them from a gacha.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. I have them. And then I played through, I think it was Zhenzo, it's like the space China again. And I was like, what do you mean they're dead? You mean they're gonna come back, right? It's like, no, they found their dead body, they gave them a burial, that's it, they're dead. And you're like, huh? Excuse me, sir? You can't just do that. But Honkai did. And yeah, I think one more thing that attracts me to it is amazing soundtrack. Just baller soundtrack. And it's very creative design. So like when I say Space China, it's actually like, it's not even a planet, it's a bunch of ships that move through space. And they have their own, like, each ship has its own ecosystem. It's like giant, like, armada. And they worship this god of the hunt. So they go through the universe and they're all like creatures who are immortal, and they fight the abundance, which is the god of too much immortality. Because, too much life is bad. You need some death. And it's this constant, like, I don't know, it's the creativity of the design, of the buildings. It got inspired by actual locations in China. It's just, it's amazing.
It definitely sounds way more interesting than I thought it was. I always thought, like, gacha games, my impression was the fun of it is seeing what cards you get, whether you pay real money for it or you pay the in-game currency, and that was it. I didn't realize there was whole ass stories involved.
But that's the thing. Most of them are. Until Genshin. Genshin revolutionized the game.
Oh my goodness, I'm getting a raid. Hold on.
Welcome, raiders.
Hello, Doru. Welcome in. How are you? Let me see if I remember the command to shout out with Streamlabs. What were you playing? You were playing Deep Rock Galactic. Rock and Stone.
What's that game about, Deep Rock Galactic?
It is, you know how they have extraction shooters where you drop into this like map and you have to do certain objectives and then you have to make it back to extract? It's like that, but with space dwarves and you're mining.
Cool. Sounds cool.
So you have a bunch of space dwarves running around and there's different classes that you can be. And each one specializes in different skills. Some are better at mining, some are better at killing enemies because you have enemies that'll attack you. Some are good at traversing and scouting ahead. It's really fun. Highly recommend playing it with friends. Playing it on your own can be kind of meh, but with friends it's very fun if you like first-person shooter type stuff.
Yeah, I feel like, unfortunately, for me, I play a lot. I'm like, I can check this out. The moment I hear first-person shooter, I'm like, nah. Because, I love Uncharted, okay? I love the voice acting, I love the story, the main character is just the blasé attitude is so hot for me. I love the puzzles. The moment you have to start shooting things, I think I've permanently got stuck on a mission because I just couldn't survive because I can't shoot for shit. I'm so bad. Like, give me an impossible puzzle, the stuff that you need to Google. I'm like, yeah, give me 10 minutes, I'll be done with it. The moment it's like, oh, you need to shoot these guys before they shoot you, nah.
Do you play with a keyboard and mouse or a controller?
If the game supports controller, I prefer controller, mostly because I have very long nails, so it's hard to play on the keyboard. I've noticed.
Yeah, that's fair.
If they're very long, especially if one of them is cracked, that's not fun.
Yeah.
I mean, you make do, but controller is so much easier, on the grip as well.
Yeah, it's also like I have really small hands. I'm a small person in real life, and trying to do things like the control button on a keyboard to crouch, sometimes that's a thing. That fucking sucks. My little pinky is stretching so far to reach that control button. Or like my pinky is like holding down the shift button and it's just cramping because it's a little too far away from WASD for my little fingies.
Aww.
Like it just, I might need a smaller keyboard. People have mentioned that they exist, but yeah, I prefer controllers.
I've played piano since I was, I want to say 14. I've not played in almost over 10 years, but because of that, my sort of my finger flexibility is pretty good, and I can do like, they're quite flexible and I don't really get cramps anymore. I also have an ergonomic mouse for work, so I just use an ergonomic mouse when I'm playing with keyboard and mouse. But I guess Warcraft is the only time when my hand does cramp, especially during raid, because it's like 2.5 hours of it just constant clicking. But thankfully Warcraft, God bless them. I mean, I know Blizzard is a problematic company, but Warcraft has such things called macros, and you can like change certain key bindings to make them more comfortable for you. So there's like, for example, team chat. I never use it because I use Discord, so I just disabled that option and put something else in T. The games that allow you to do that, I mean, most games generally do, then yeah, it can make it a little bit easier when there's no controller support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said World of Warcraft. That made me think. One of my friends recently was saying that there was an update to World of Warcraft where instead of having to click 1, 2, 3, 4 for all your spells or actions, it's now just one button.
Yeah. They did this so that, like, a lot, like, Warcraft Classic, I didn't even play it because it was so long ago, but it used to be that you had so many skills that would not fit on your, like, spell bar. I find, we had this discussion with my raid team, actually, about who is going to use this button and who isn't. And the idea is the button works if you're playing a new class. It does decent damage, but in a game, like when you're playing endgame content, you know how endgame content is. You finished all the main quests, you're fully geared, you're like top level damage you can do, and then there is like you need to dish out as much damage as you can in a shortest amount of time, because this boss will like nuke your whole team if you don't carry your raid. So at this point, the button, as we call it, it doesn't perform as well. If you know your character, and sometimes especially a lot of the skills are utility skills, so damage wise, yeah, you could use the button. But a lot of the skills, for example, I'm a hunter in-game. This character was inspired by my World of Warcraft character. And there's a lot of jobs you have as a hunter doing raid. Most of them are like when you put like a shield on yourself and you need to clear some like bad areas on the map and take, run around and take some damage, because you can still damage the boss when you're running, Sometimes they need you to drop traps to like slow things down. Sometimes they're like, okay, we need somebody to run at the other end of the room. Hunter, you have the speed, you go. And you're like, okay. Yeah. And if you mess up, like, usually it's not that bad, but some bosses, like, one person messes one job they needed to do in, like, phase 2, and it's wipe. Everybody dead. You start again. The level of coordination bosses these days require are insane. Back in the day, it was like, just hit boss, don't stand and fire, you're fine. Now it's like, okay, phase 1, people hit boss, but the boss has 8 techniques, and if you get hit by one of them, it's insta-death. You have to do a hopscotch thing here. You have to carry an egg from one point to another. You have to drop it here. And it's like, usually they used to be like the achievements, that you got achievements through doing this, but now it's like, no, this is just to beat the boss, and just to do phase 1. Phase 2, you're supposed to fly on your mount to another platform, and you're like, fuck. It's like, when I see like tactics videos, they last 15 minutes. 15 minutes!
It's giving PhD in the 80s versus PhD now.
Yes, exactly. But I'm not gonna lie, this is a really unpopular opinion in my guild. They all just like to see the damage meters go, brr, I enjoy the complexity. I find like, Warcraft raiding, you actually need to coordinate with your team really well. You need to, the raid leader needs to shout out what you need to do, but you also need to think for yourself and do your part. If you don't do your part, you let the whole team down. And I'm like, you know what? This could be on a CV as a team building exercise. It's really complicated work.
Communication, team building,
exactly,
management.
And sometimes, a lot of the time in game, like I never do crazy damage because I'm a bit lazy. I don't like to farm. Like, not my thing. And maybe I'm just flustered and I forget. Like, you have a rotation and I forget it because I'm so flustered. But a lot of the time, I see like, okay, somebody needs to take this bomb. The person who was supposed to take this bomb is dead. Nobody's calling anything out. My damage is the least one here. If I, like, jump on the bomb, I will die, but the rest of the, raid can still survive and finish this boss. And if I see that the raid leader isn't calling anything out, nobody's volunteering to do it, I volunteer to. Like, okay, I'll sacrifice my damage, but I will keep the team safe. Or like, I'm doing the mechanics correctly, is what they say. I don't do that much damage, but I've never been hit by this, ray you're supposed to dodge. But like, half the people who do crazy damage got hit and died. And by the end of the raid, I do most damage because I stayed alive longer or something, Yeah. And I find like, that's also your call. But sometimes making these calls is bad because the raid leader has a plan. And if you're like, they have a system and they have assignments and they assigned you to teams for a reason, There's groups doing things. You can't just willy-nilly volunteer for things. Which I find like any workplace would really benefit from this.
Yeah.
I find any workplace
think more people should play video games in general.
Yeah, but not just that. Like team building activities should be just going to Warcraft raid. I mean, it is 20 plus people. Like, you can have more, like 23, up to 25 people in it.
Mm-hmm.
And some raids, you just can't defeat a boss if it's less than 20. Like, you need your full team power. And some of them are healers, some of them are tanks, some of them are damage dealers. It's a full, like, cooperative thing. And it's much better than mini-golf. Have you heard about those horror stories of like, oh, we're doing team building with a company, we're going mini-golfing. You're like, oh, no.
I haven't, but I can picture it. I can see exactly how that goes.
I mean, if you can drink, then yes. But if you usually when like in science, people are relaxed, I think. But in like corporate, I don't think you can drink on this kind of activity. And just doing it sober is just cringe.
Yeah. Mini golf as an adult definitely requires some day drinking.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of fun when it's someone's 30th birthday and you already got crunked by 3 p.m. and you're trying to do mini golf. Then it's amazing. I feel like if everybody is in on the ridiculousness, then it's fine. But then you would always find like the two competitive people, and you're like, It's not that deep,
yeah.
bro. It's not that deep.
There's always those, regardless of where you go. Whether it's in video gaming or something in real life, there's always the competitive people.
They're like, dude, it's just a game. Relax. By the way, I wanted to ask you, like, I've seen you play, like, I've seen you play quite a lot of co-op, but, and do you play like horror games as well, or? Yeah, I've seen you play. Was it Silent Hill or something?
No, not Silent Hill. I was. Whoa, what have I been playing that was horror related? No, I'm Not Human, which is.
I've heard that that's like that's a big game. Like it was quite big. Everybody was playing it. How'd you find it?
Yeah. It was recommended to me by my mod in my community. It's very good. It's point and click, so it's not like jump scary. There's no jump scares in it, but it's psychological horror. It's very good in my opinion. And it's like choices matter. You're constantly making choices about who to let into your house and who to keep out or who to send away. And depending on the choices you make and depending on how well you vet the people you let into your house, you might die, they might die, or you could get the good ending, which I haven't gotten yet.
Yeah, I've only seen like some YouTubers play it, but I find it something like, yeah, I would probably enjoy that kind of story-based games. Have you heard of Dispatch?
Yes. So for the past month, I've been gone on vacation, and it came out while I was away on vacation. And I really want to play it, but now that I'm back and it feels like everyone has been so far into it already, I feel like I'm jumping on the bandwagon and that chat might be a little fatigued of all the Dispatch content. So as much as I want to play it, I think I'm going to wait for a little bit before I do.
Yeah, I'm waiting until the Steam sale. I've already bought a lot of games this year, and I'm like probably Christmas Steam sale. Like I've heard of it because I was obsessed with Critical Role, and I've been watching the recent campaign, and they did a Dispatch themed one shot, which to me was the best. It was so funny, and of course they were like, oh, it's heavily inspired by the game. It's not the game, because they have to say it, but. Like half the Critical Role cast is voicing the characters there, so yeah, I'm pretty looking forward to it. I'm sure they're gonna get a season 2. I feel like it's the same thing with like with Critical Role when they were like, oh, we're gonna make an animated show for Legend of Vox Machina. We're gonna make a what is it, a GoFundMe, but like a Patreon, and see if we can maybe get like a special 3 episodes or something. And they got like 14 million in 2 days, and they're like, okay, I guess we're doing a season. And now they're on season like 4 on Amazon. They have another show coming out. I'm like, yeah, sure, okay. It's just a small indie game that you're doing. It's not gonna go anywhere. Okay.
Yeah, well, it goes somewhere because it's such a beloved company, sort of, well,
yes,
quote unquote company, Critical Role is. So they have a really large following. And just because they've never dipped their toes into that market before, they should have really expected, knowing their fan base and how feral they are for Critical Role.
It's actually quite funny, that
it would be successful, and I love that for them, because Critical Role, the cast of Critical Role is great. I love them.
Yeah, I mean, I find it's, to me, the fact that they never expect it is hilarious, because by this point, I'm like, guys, it's been 10 years. You should expect this. You sell out, like, arenas when you go. Like, bro. And they know it, but like they don't act like, they don't act like they're old as shit, even though they are old as shit.
Yeah, they don't act entitled about their fortune. You know what I mean? Yeah. And by fortune, I don't mean money. I just mean like they've done very well for themselves, and it hasn't gone to their head, and I love that.
No, and they also do like other jobs as well. Like they still voice act, they still act in games and stuff. This is just like, even though they're all employees of Critical Role, which is now an independent company, they're still very, like, this isn't my main job. My main job is voice acting in video games, which is a dope job anyway. But I heard that, like, the same company, I forgot their name, they're gonna do it, like, and the next game's gonna be in the Exandria, which is the Critical Role universe. So, I am looking forward to that one. But I do want to play, I want to play Dispatch, because we haven't really had a good episodic sort of storyline after the Walking Dead.
Yeah, well, it's because Telltale went out of business.
Yeah, and I don't understand because they had how?
I think the issue is they had some copyright issues that ended up putting them under financially because of like they had to pay for legal stuff, if I remember correctly. Which is a shame because I do recall them. I think they tried to do everything by the book. It's just because they were a small indie studio without a team of lawyers at their back. They did something wrong. Some lawyer somewhere for the IP found a loophole and decided to sue them or whatever.
America. Sorry, I just had to say that, man. But I feel like obviously Dispatch is its own sort of. I mean, I know it's a different company, but like thankfully I have not seen any other IP. Like they make their own. Like you can't IP superheroes as a concept. There's so much stuff that now has superheroes as a concept. Like if you make your own superheroes, you can still kind of get away with it. And obviously, I think because Critical Role is so, I feel like they're quite good with their IP. I feel like because they've been, like, I mean, they've produced Daggerheart, but they've been kind of, I don't know, like, they seem like, yeah, as long as we do everything by the book and we agree that this is fine, but I have a feeling because it's set in the Critical Role universe, like, most of Critical Role cast will be voice acting anyway in this game.
Of course.
Which is kind of makes it, I don't know, makes it legally not their game, but associated? I don't know, it's business jargon. But I think because most of the, like, this is why their animated series has never had any problems, because they voice acted everything, and they have a lot of friends who are voice directors, who they actually, like for Vox Machina, who they hired to hire people to be the NPCs that we all love and you know, to realize the vision. There wasn't any big Amazon exec who was like, no, we need to have Chris Pratt voice this character. It was never this. This never was a thing. They were like, no. We're gonna animate it with a small studio that we know of who did like our opening scenes for our campaign. We're gonna get all the people we know and the people we hope would come along and agreed suddenly. Okay, like Carrie Payne. They were like, oh, okay, sir. Fine. Sure. Yes. And like even like the I think there was a score. I think I think for Legend of Vox Machina at least, I think they contacted one of the composers. They were like, hey, can you do like an opening score for our Vox Machina? And he was like, oh, I already have it made. I'll send it to you. And like the guy I think hired a full orchestra, recorded it, and sent it their way, and they were like, we'll take it. It sounds great. I feel like it's the I love it when people have this. I'm just a fan, okay? I'm just a casual at this. And then they get surprised when everybody takes them super seriously, but they deliver. Yeah.
That's true, they do.
Do you know any, like, to me, it's Critical Role, and I know it sounds weird, but BTS, the Korean boy band.
Yeah, what about them?
No, I mean, they have the same, like, constant surprise at the success, because I've seen their sort of journey from 2013, and now, like, it's been 10 years on. Those guys are, you know, in K-pop at least, they're super famous. They're like, one of the elites. And even, like, nowadays, like, some of them still behave like, oh yeah, I debuted, like, 2 years ago. I'm just a kid. I'm just a dude, man. And you're like, no, you're not. You're not just a dude. You'll be seen drinking a drink on one of your live streams, and then it's sold out in Korea for 5 days. Because, dude, you're not just a normal person anymore.
You now have influence.
Oh yeah, like it's mad. I mean, some of them, like, I think after 10 years, they're just like they understand, but they don't, like. I feel like I know that there's a lot of. Especially now, because it's been a bit quiet, some of the members get, like, flack, like, oh no, this guy was found smoking! I'm like, he's 30. Girl, he's 30.
He's an adult.
He's 30!
He can make his own decisions.
But, you know, the idol thing. But even then, comparing to a lot of other people who, like, I see some crazy, like, I don't really follow most of K-pop gossip, but on my Twitter I sometimes see crazy stuff. And then there is these guys who, like, they've been at the stage for 10 years, and every time they do a concert, even when during COVID, I've seen that concert during COVID where they would put cameras around, and they would rent an entire stadium, and they would perform like they're performing to live fans, and they would stream it. And I think they're the ones that, at the beginning of COVID, actually helped develop the technology that now a lot of remote, like, concerts do. With multiple camera views. Because before, like, I don't know, it was kind of mid, like, you needed a TV studio to do it, and even then there was like moving cameras. Here they did like, I remember attending it during COVID, which they had like the main camera for one view, but you had at least 4 or 5 different angled views at the same time, and you could switch between them, and you could watch them all at the same time. And they did like
That's
live,
pretty cool.
yeah, live translation, because some of it obviously it's a concert, so a lot of it was scripted. Like especially interaction with people between songs and, you know, talking and things. But I feel like that technology was, I've seen it used on other people's concerts during COVID and after COVID. So I'm like, hey, they helped develop technology that is used today just by doing this. And like, I find like they give 100% every time they're on stage, regardless of how big the venue is, how small the venue is, which I can't say for a lot of other artists. So yeah, I'm gonna stop this rant on BTS. I just wanted to ask if you know anyone who is like either either an actor or an artist or a company or like a group of people who kind of started indie, now are big, and have that like same vibe. Is mostly I'm asking, do you have any examples like this?
I don't know how good of an example this is, but one of my favorite game studios is called Techland. Or Techland, depending on how you want to pronounce it. But they make Dying Light, as I mentioned earlier. I'm going to franchise soon. They also made Dead Island and that franchise, except for 2. They weren't responsible for that one. But they started out as this like really small indie company, and the only games that they work on now are pretty much Dying Light. Actually, I think the only game they work on is Dying Light. They're constantly supporting it, and it's like, oh, they put so much love into their Dying Light games. It's fantastic to see. Unlike the AAA studios, where you see that they hop on trends and everything like that, they don't put a lot of work into their games because it's a bunch of CEOs saying, well, what's going to make us the most money? Not, is it good? Techland has gone from making this small, janky-ass Dying Light, Dead Island game, where it was so clunky, the game controls weren't very good, to making Dying Light and being so successful in the zombie genre that no one else really can compete with them. Call of Duty Black Ops used to, but not anymore.
Yeah, it's always great to see like this kind of success. I find like about games and AAA, I mean, we all know the legend, the myth that is Baldur's Gate 3. And how, I mean, the reason why I'm extra salty is because I have been a fan of Dragon Age series since I was 17, I think, since I got my first game. And I've been playing Dragon Age like a religious zealot since then. And I was waiting for the 4th Dragon Age game. For 12 years, I have been waiting for it. And when it finally came out, I really, really wanted to like it. And there's some good things about it. However, it is obvious that the game that we were supposed to have, if EA didn't buy out BioWare, would have been the one I've been waiting for. Unfortunately, we didn't get like the EA slop we get. We got something in between. We got the moments where you're like, this could have been great. Oh shit, why is this EA slop here? Like, we got a weird chimera, weird amalgamation of the two. The only thing I could describe it as is, I don't know, have you seen Fullmetal Alchemist?
Yes.
It's the Edward trying to resurrect his mom meme. It's that. It's like, like it was a cute dog and his brother was good, but when you combine them together, you get that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what Veilguard was to me, and I felt really annoyed because I'm like, I can see the potential, I can see the writing, and a lot of like leaked pre-development things that they cut. I was like, you should have kept it, and then the stuff that they kept, I'm like, you should have cut it. Like, it was literally like, just do everything opposite of what you did, and it would have been great. And I find like during this time where big company barges into like a small studio and says, yeah, okay, this doesn't work. Okay, we're not doing live service or microtransactions. We gotta mess with the story somehow. And then we got Baldur's Gate, who were like, fuck everybody, we're gonna do what we want. And it delivered to the wazoo. And then all the companies, I remember them complaining, being like, oh, now people are expecting greatness. I'm like, that was the point. People want good games, you ass.
Yeah, and look how much money they made for putting out a good game. Like,
and they're still putting updates. Every time I'm on Steam, I haven't played Baldur's Gate in a while, but they always update shit. And I'm like, and I think there was one update straight after the game like came out, which was like, by the way, we added 25 new classes, and you're like, huh? I'm sorry? What do you mean? Yeah, it's amazing. And I don't know what they're working on next. I don't care. They have at least 10 years to work on it. They have enough money to not worry, I think, at this point. Even like Baldur's Gate, I pre-ordered it back in like 2021. I played it a little bit, and I was like, oh, this seems fun, but it's a little bit clunky. It's an alpha. All right. And when the game came out, I didn't have to buy it again. Because I got the alpha, I just had it in my library. So
nice. Yeah,
and it costs like 50 quid, and I'm like, no, this game is worth like it's literally like 400 hours worth of content with replay. Like, bro, easily worth 100 quid. So I got a bargain here.
And with the ability, them allowing mods, it easily quadruples the amount of playtime you could get if you go for different mods.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I find like this is what good companies do. They're like, hey, you know what? We have the IP. You all know we have the IP. But the players, like, as long as you do a good mod for it, like, it's fine. What I realized is, I think Hogwarts Legacy is owned by EA, I believe. I think.
But I don't remember who they're owned by. Which
is really funny, because I found that Hogwarts Legacy, in my email, they started giving me updates like, now we have this modding, like, highlight where viewers can submit their cool mods of Hogwarts Legacy, and we will feature them. And I'm like, you saw the success of Baldur's Gate, you ass, and you decided to try to get money out of it, you bitch. I don't trust you anymore, you're evil.
Yeah, well, EA got bought out by a company because they weren't doing so hot. Their business decisions decided to bite them in the ass.
I don't know about that. Is that the Saudi company?
Yeah.
Oh boy. I think the reason is because, like, the football games. Everybody's obsessed with the football games. Not American football, but like the sports games, the soccer. And it's huge in Saudi Arabia. It's huge in Middle East, soccer. So, having a giant, they literally only bought it for that. For FIFA. That's it. Every other IP in there, they don't care for it. They just care for the FIFA. So I have a nasty feeling that after a few years, they might just axe all the other IPs and just keep the sports, and that's it.
Well, I heard that Sims 4 is pretty much shut down because that company passed the support for the Sims 4 off to a third-party company, and that third-party company is like, we're not providing this software anymore, so now Sims 4 like doesn't exist at the moment. Yeah. And I'm like, wow.
I mean, I used to play Sims as a kid a lot, so I was like, oh, wow, this is huge. And I know a friend who was obsessed with Sims back in a few years ago, really. She's I don't know. It's kind of like, there are some games that are so big that you're like, they're always going to be around, right? Right?
No. Unless they require you to log into a particular server that's owned by the company, and that company is like, ooh, fuck this server.
Yeah. Then you're kind of screwed. Yeah, this is my always big fear with live games, but I feel like as long as the game is alive and you're playing it, it should be fine.
Yeah.
But yeah. I wanted to say something else. I forgot. Sorry. It was about like the whole oh yeah. Clair Obscur. That's the newer crazy sort of indie company that said fuck all of y'all's systems. Fuck all of y'all's recipes for success. We're just gonna do a classic JRPG. The reason I say it is because it's French, so it's not JRPG, it says JRPG. We're gonna get big voice actors from the success of Baldur's Gate, because we already know they do a good job. We're gonna get an amazing art design team, an amazing score team. We're gonna write an amazing story, have unique combat, like mix Elden Ring with fantasy and crazy shit, because we want to, okay? And, you know, and then everybody started complaining. The moment Clair Obscur came out, I see so many butthurt, like, game developers and even streamers and, like, YouTubers who are sponsored by other people who are just like, oh, I don't get why this game is so big. I'm like, because, you know, Final Fantasies back in the early 2000s were really huge for this particular reason. Yeah, that's why, because we haven't had a good JRPG, Japan, in a long time. We've had some, like, copies of it, but we never had, like, a good new original one. I mean, Final Fantasies are always gonna be there. I feel like they're, like, a staple of JRPG culture. But even they went into, like, the live service thing. But I haven't seen any new IP that did, like, such a good job as Clair Obscur. in such a short amount of time.
Especially not in recent years. Yeah. I want to say this isn't really a JRPG, but it's kind of along the lines of the combat style of most JRPGs, where it's like hack and slash third person sort of. You fight, and then when you're not fighting, there's some story that you find out, and blah blah blah. But Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice, that came out in the mid 2010s? Question mark. But that one was beautiful. It won many game awards. It had best soundtrack for best indie game, or best indie game soundtrack, and all that other stuff. Very good. Not on the same level of Clair Obscura, but still a pretty good game. And
2017, yeah. I'm looking it up now.
I'm glad it won as many awards as it did.
Yeah.
Because it deserved it for an indie game.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like maybe now society I feel like indie games now can do pretty well if they put effort in, because they can rely on the societies being pissed off with the AAA games to the point where they're just gonna, I feel like I already like a game simply because it's good and it's indie. Like, if a AAA produces a good game, it's a surprise for me. I'm like, wow, okay. But if it's an indie game, I'm like, I already like you because you're indie. You put effort into this.
I also think because indie studios aren't led by, like, a corporate board of directors, they can be more free in the content they make.
Yeah.
Whereas the board of directors sits there and they look at the content, and most of them aren't even video game fans. They're just looking at the content going, oh, what is the most neutrally appealing thing that we can make to try to get as many people on board as possible? But I don't think what they realize is that you need something, I don't want to say controversial, that's not what I am looking for. It's not controversial. We don't need problematic here. But we need something that has a little spice to it. A little something that's different than just your, oh, how neutrally...
Yeah, something with a personality.
Acceptable can we make this? Yeah.
Something with a personality. Something when you're like, wow, we're playing as the main character, but the main character's not a good person. But that's okay. Just
yeah.
It doesn't have to be. It's an interesting character journey that you're following this person. I'm like, great, let's go. Why? You know, I find this is the problem not only in video games, it's a problem in all pop culture. This is a problem in music production, at least in K-pop for real. And this is a big problem in TV series, in movies. This has just become a big problem in any kind of media consumption we're having. And even I think it bled into some like VTubing and other things. Like, this is a big issue where you have a big board of directors who are like, okay, what is the most PG thing we can do? And you don't, and unfortunately, movies and TV series, we had this conversation in my previous Ranger Roundtable, if you guys were curious in more detail, but just as a nutshell, like, there's so much case of like, there's no, I mean, I understand the writers struggle, because they need to play on the nostalgia, because the board of directors won't sponsor anything if there isn't already a fan base with it. Which is a struggle for new coming artists and writers who are like, I have this great idea that, like, people have done similar things before, but this is unique enough to be, like, its own thing. It's fresh, it's new, and they immediately get shut down because it doesn't have a fan base, and you're like, this could have been the next Star Wars, or the next freaking Lord of the Rings, you know? I know they're based on books, but they had a very small following until, you know, the movies came out, until Star Wars was a completely original work, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it was inspired by
so
Dune and, you know, all of that, but it's completely original work. And it is, like, huge now. And unfortunately, these days, we're sorely lacking in this kind of creativity. And it's not to shit on the writers. It's to shit on the board of directors of all of these companies that don't want to fund this.
Well, of course, because they want to make sure it's successful so they know they make money. They don't want to fund something that they don't know is going to be successful, because then it means they lose money. There's a lot of stigma in the upper echelons of movie production and TV production where it has to be successful or it's not worth making.
Which I find is bullshit, because sometimes, like, you find a movie that is genuinely horrible. Like, for example, The Room. It's so bad that it's so famous because it's so bad. Like,
yeah,
you can be spectacularly bad at something, and then eventually it gets a cult following, you know? Sometimes you gotta throw the dice. But I feel like nobody gambles anymore, and that sucks.
Yeah. Well, some people throw the dice, and it's a movie that flops and later becomes a cult classic, or it flops and disappears into obscurity, or you get lucky and you have a wild success and you can move forward with it. But instead, we have a bunch of remakes of all this old stuff, and half of the remakes aren't even good. And
yeah, it just feels. I feel so uninspired. That is the word I'm feeling. Which is why, like, I find small companies like Critical Role and like Dimension 20. When I watch, for example, I'm just gonna say this out loud. When I watch Dimension 20 like short games, I know that their DM Brennan scripts a lot of it because they're like, okay, we have 2-hour games with a lot of editing. One game is for combat, one game is for story. And we have like, let's say 20 episodes for this season. He doesn't plan everything the players do, but he kind of has to have an idea for the story because they make the minis and they make the map custom and they make everything like 3D and the filming needs to happen. But for a viewer, when you're watching it, it doesn't feel forced. It feels quite natural, and the crazy decisions you have in D&D actually happen and he lets them happen. The production quality is huge. The stories they tell are always anti-capitalist, anti-religion. But anyway, that's just Brennan, okay? He can't help himself.
I think it's great.
He will always go against organized religion and against like a capitalistic government. Like, he's not against like industry or businesses. He's against like capitalism as like a concept of governance. So he you know, he always puts it into stories, but it's subtle enough. Well, sometimes it's not subtle. Sometimes it's subtle enough to work. But the ideas he comes up with, like magical New York, where there is like an underbelly of dreams because it's a city of dreams, and you know, and they have like the fairies are on Broadway, the train, there's a dragon in the train, like the underground system, you know, and they're all like just behind a veil of human perception. Unless you're initiated into this world, you won't see it, but once you are, you can't unsee it. And like that was the concept for like 2 of their games called The Unsleeping City, and it's brilliant. And they have like a fantasy. It's basically, they did like what there was a Fantasy High movie, I think, or Sky High or something back in the day, where they did like a superhero school in the high school in the sky back. I think it was 2002. I don't remember. It was really long time ago, but I feel like that might have been the first one of like, hey, let's have comedy with superheroes in it. Because before that, it was either serious superhero movies or like, you know, those cheesy 60s thing. Like, it was never like, hey, superheroes have kids and they go to high school and it's just a normal suburban life, but they're just superheroes. I mean, The Incredibles was the only, like, the first one. And then this was kind of based on that, I think. And, you know, it's amazing how it's just, it's crazy, man. Like,
I do think that the era that we've come into with superheroes, well, I don't know, I've kind of fallen off watching the Marvel movies now, but 2008 Marvel to like 2016 Marvel was the heyday for superhero movies. And I'm so glad that it happened, because I was so sick of DC's really doom and gloom outlook on all their superhero movies, and I was like, oh man.
Yeah, just the Guardians of the Galaxy, the fact that it existed, and like Deadpool, hands down. I'm sorry, Deadpool.
I'm so glad they made
amazing.
Deadpool movies.
Like, even the recent one, it's the only, like, my boyfriend is a big horror fan, so the only movies we went to see in the cinema are like Final Destination, which was actually surprisingly pretty good. We went to see Nosferatu, which I forgot my glasses for, so I was squinting through half of it, but I loved it. It was an artistic, beautiful film. He wanted to see Frankenstein, but then our dog jumped out a window and broke his paw, so we couldn't.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. So he watched it later. And Deadpool and Wolverine. These are the only movies we've seen in the cinema. Everything else, he's like, we'll wait till it gets on demand and watch it then. I'm not that excited for it. Although he's a big Marvel fan. But yeah, no, Deadpool, just generally, just, I don't know why. I think I feel like I just really enjoy things where people say, yeah, rules, convention, schmention, whatever. We're just gonna do what we want. And you're like, sometimes it is very controversial. And sometimes you're like, wow, a lot of people get offended by this. Not me, though. I enjoy this shit. You're just watching it. Like, I love that.
Movie theaters. I love movie theaters. I love them so much. But I moved down to Atlanta, Georgia. And Atlanta, Georgia is severely devoid of any good movie theaters that I have been deprived of seeing a movie unless I go out of state, which is insane.
Oh, yeah. How long do you have to drive to get out of state?
From where I live, it's about 2 hours.
Jesus, just to see a movie? Oh,
Yeah. So usually whenever I go visit friends or family, I'm like, hey, when I'm in town, we're gonna go see a movie. We're going to the movie theater. We have to. I don't care what's planned. We're gonna
anything.
pick
Just watch
something
anything. So
and we're gonna go.
my question is, what is your definition of a good movie theater? Can you give me like your criteria and like the horror stories of like you walked into a movie theater and like you saw something and you're like, oh god.
So honestly, most of it is sound balance. I don't think people realize how nice a movie theater with good sound balance is until you go into a movie theater where you cannot hear what the characters on screen are saying because the sound balance is so off that you just hear the deep like brrr of the movies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That and like comfortable chairs is a must, upgrading the chairs, but also clean bathrooms.
Yeah.
A lot of really bad movie theaters, you know they're going to be bad when their bathroom is clean. Which incidentally is the same as restaurants. If you go into a restaurant and you walk into the bathroom and it's not clean, don't eat there.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, in the UK, I haven't really been to many movie theaters. There is one, I used to live right next to one. And I didn't have my boyfriend at the time, so I had a lot of free time on my hands. So it used to do where like for, I want to say for $20 a month, you could watch as many movies as you like. You had to pay extra for food. Like obviously when you basically could get any ticket as long as you reserve it. 20 bucks a month. You know, when you think about it, if you go to the movies often, that really, like, it's like $4 a movie. That's really cheap. Any food, you get 25% off, not counting alcohol. So I was like, hey, this is pretty great. And the cinema was literally within 5-minute walk away from my house. And the seats were like, you sit down and it's reclined, you know, it reclines. And it,
that's
like,
the best.
every seat had, like, it was at least a meter wide and it had, like, really big, soft armrests. And there is so much legroom between of them. And they're like, you know, it's a movie theater that's not flat, that's, like, layered. So obviously, I know a lot of movie theaters are flat. I'm like, how does that work? But they're layered. And you don't get that many seats per like, movie, I guess, in the room. There are some big ones with an IMAX, but you know, the rest of them are kind of smaller ones. You only get about, I guess, 30 or 40 people in. Like that's the max you can. And imagine that kind of comfort with any movie you want to watch 5 minutes away from your home. Every Saturday I would just go and watch 2 to 3 movies in a row.
Amazing.
Just go from one to another. They also streamed a lot of like operas and ballets, but those weren't included in the ticket. Like you had to pay extra for those. Especially like I lived in a town where there wasn't local theater, but it did like local productions. And I, like, example, if I wanted to see a musical or an opera, and they sometimes, now I live in London, I don't care, I can just go. It's pricey, but I can just go. But then they used to like live stream it in a way. Like they live stream a performance, and with the same technology that BTS kind of did their live streams, and you can just watch it in a movie theater, in the comfort of your own tiny little town in England, whatever. So that movie theater was like the best. Since then, every movie theater I've been to has never measured up, and now I'm spoiled.
Oh yeah.
Now I'm heavily spoiled. And like those reclining seats, they weren't even the VIP seats. This is just standard.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Here, if I wanted to spend more money, we can go to a place with reclining seats. But the last time we went there, their kitchen was quote unquote down for maintenance. So the food that we could order there, we couldn't order any. We could only order just like candy and drinks. But they were supposed to have a full suite of food because it had like a tray table and it like drink holders in the seats and everything like that. You should have been able to order from the bar and all that other stuff, but you couldn't, and I was disappointed. I wanted a meal. I wanted dinner and a show, if you will. But I didn't get one.
No, to me, like, movie, it's sweet and salty popcorn. I don't care. I can eat a bucket. I don't give a shit. Sweet and salty, and if they have a slushie, boy, I'm your girl. I don't drink slushies. They're too sweet for me. But in a movie, yes. Yeah. Oh man, I should drag my boyfriend to go to a movie theater again. Now you made me want to go to movies. We're gonna see what's coming out. But yeah, I feel like it used to be you'd go to a movie theater because I remember my youth, like when I was in I guess I was a teen in the 2000s, and the only good thing to do in my country where I was to go to the mall. And as a girl,
yeah, the heyday of malls.
yeah, because Jordan was very heavily influenced by the U.S. In both candy, food, school system, everything. And so when we went into the malls, like the girls would go into Claire's and they would go into like Accessorize and all those crazy places, and you would like go shopping for clothes. But that was never to me. I was just like, they're clothes. Until I found novelty T-shirts, I was like, I don't care about this. And then at the end of the day, you would all wander into the movie theater next to TGI Fridays. And then you'd look at the movie theater and like, okay, so what's playing? Like, you would never go to a movie theater specifically to watch a movie. You go to a movie theater and browse what they got.
Yeah.
And that was my entire, like, 2000s social life, I guess. And it was always like, you know, your local movie theater, your parents would like drive you to the mall and then they'd drop you off and say, I'll pick you up in 5 hours. I'm off. They'd drive away and do their own thing. Yeah, and I feel
they
like
go eat, have their own dinner, drink, sit at the bar, do whatever, and be like, they're fine.
Yeah, well, no bar in my country, but still, they get rid of their teenagers for like 5 hours, and they're like in a safe environment because the mall is enclosed. Like you could leave, but what would you do outside? Like, so just stay in the mall, and there's always like. It's a trackable place. So it's a place the parents can leave their kids in groups, unsupervised, for lengthy periods of time without having to worry that they're safe to, you know, all that shebang. I feel like that has died now. I don't know, what do kids these days do?
A lot of the kids I know do what I do, and they stay inside, and they play video games.
Yeah, that's what I noticed, like that... Yeah. I mean...
But that's not what I do what I did as a kid. I was always outside.
Yeah.
My parents were very much of the mindset, don't come in until the lights are on, drink from the hose if you need water. Like...
yeah. I remember my we had this thing of like I would I would also the same, but in like in my preteen, I'd say before I was 11. So like that, you know, the kid, when you're a kid, you're not a teen. I would spend most of my time outside, mostly because I didn't have any games at home, except, like, puzzles. I loved freaking jigsaws, right? Me and my great-grandma and my grandma would sit down, and I would just finish a 2,000-piece jigsaw in 20 minutes, because I love them, right? I'll just go... not ironically. And Sudoku. Freaking loved Sudoku. Right? Old lady games.
Sudoku,
but then my mom would be like, she'd come in and like, the weather's nice outside, get out. And so she'd kick me out, and I'd play with friends outside, until it was like deep into the evening for dinner. I'd come home, eat it, and pass out. And she's like, great, all of the energy of the kid is just gone. And then I feel like as a teen, I went into the place where you can't do that. You can't play outside. First of all, because it's so hot. And second, because it's not common for kids to be outside. There's not really parks or anything. Everybody just goes to the mall. And I think one place that I've realized is very uncommon anywhere else is like video game cafe. It's very common in Asia, but it's not very common anywhere else except for Jordan, because you can go into a place and you could like order a booth for a few hours and it would have like Guitar Hero and like all of those things that you know you need a lot of kit to play it at home. So your parents probably wouldn't buy you like all of these guitars and drums and stuff. But this video game cafe would definitely have that, because they would invest into like a set and you could book that room and play Guitar Hero for hours, and that's what I did. You could order like food, and in Jordan you could order a shisha as well, you know, the smoking pipe into the room as well, and they don't check how old you are. I was clearly 14. I was like, hey guys, we ordered some pizza, and then they were just like, and the guy's like, oh, do you want shisha with that? We're like, we're 14. He's like, and? When? Give us one. He's like, okay, whatever.
Sure.
Sure. I mean, it's like with pizza, it comes cheaper. We're like, okay.
Wow.
Yeah, Middle East is really relaxed about the smoking. They don't care. I mean, in school, they will yell at you, but like outside of the school like doors, everybody's smoking and nobody cares. I feel like if you, but the problem is I also found like me and my classmates, we were like 16, and we went to Germany for this like school trip because we were in the, I don't know if America has this Model United Nations thing, MUN.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we went to Germany for an MUN conference, and we were like a whole team, and we had a bunch of 15, 16-year-old Arab guys in our team, and they looked 25. Because they had full beard and they were very tall and very burly already. I think it's the testosterone or something. So I think I understand that in Middle East, like if somebody comes up to you They could look like they're 25, but they're actually 15.
That's wild.
At least boys. I don't know about girls, but dudes. I mean, all of my friends smoked in high school, and all of them were like never had a problem going to like a local shop and buying a pack of cigarettes. Never got ID'd, and I was like, okay, cool.
Oh, weird flex, but okay.
Yeah, I was like, weird flex, but okay. I don't smoke. I'm not a smoker. Even though I lived in a country where everybody, including my parents, everybody smoked, and I somehow just never got the nicotine bug.
Yeah. When I was growing up here in the US, it felt like everyone around me when I was growing up was a smoker, but I never got into it. By the time I was old enough to even think about it, like, but when I got my license and I could drive and be unsupervised, you would have thought that was the time, but I was like, eh.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think I tried my first cigarette when I was like 12. My mom had a friend whose daughter was like a full delinquent, okay? So my mom would go hang out with her friend, and obviously I would not be able to hang out with the adults, so she saddled me with her daughter. And that girl was crazy, okay? And I was the kind that's like, I'm too nice to say no, so I'll just go along with whatever you're doing. Even though I really don't want to do this, but okay. I'm a good girl, but hey, you know what? Whatever. And so she introduced me to a cigarette, and I hated it because I didn't do it right. And so since then, right up until I think I was 27, I've just never smoked. And at 27, I tried a cigarette again now correctly, and I was like, okay, I see how it's done now. It does nothing for me. And like my boyfriend vapes now, and you know, I if I'm stressed, like when my dog jumped out a window and broke a paw, I was like, okay, I think I need a cigarette right now, because I'm very stressed. But even then, like it never like, to my parents, it's a big addiction. Like they've been trying to stop for so long, and they always like relapse. For me, it's like, yeah, I can take it or leave it, which I've always found fascinating, because I've heard like nicotine and caffeine are extremely addictive. But I can live with that. I can have a coffee every single day, and then I can spend 4 months without a single drop of coffee.
Yeah, that's how I am also.
Like
Though I still haven't smoked a cigarette.
Yeah.
I don't really have a desire to.
I mean, they're kind of... The whole point of them, apparently, I feel like if you have... They're pretty good if you have, like, an anxious disposition, because of the, like, the regular breathing in and breathing out is like a breathing exercise, but then you can just do breathing exercises. And without the smoke. What I do find is if you smoke a lot of nicotine in one go, like I do sometimes smoke a shisha when I'm back in Jordan, because they just taste like they have like those like marshmallow tasting shisha, or like a grape and apple, which is delicious. If you smoke too much tobacco in one go, you get really dizzy.
Oh yeah,
really dizzy. So
sometimes people can also get sick from it as well.
Oh yeah,
too much nicotine at once.
Yeah. Especially if you're not used to
your
it.
tummy.
Yeah, if you're not used to it. Like, I remember smoking that shisha near the pool, and then getting up and like, oh, like as if I drank a bottle of vodka, and I was like, I'm fully sober. I'm just very dizzy. I guess that's my foray into smoking. Like maybe once every 2 years, I will smoke a shisha. That's it. But yeah, it's bizarre. And then like drinking though, I enjoy a drink. So I feel like that's my vice. While everybody around me has the other ones.
Yeah, I go for a good social drink every now and then.
Yeah.
Don't really drink at home, because I have to drink so much water. I'm so focused on drinking water at the house.
I've noticed this, like, I find, like, I found so many memes and jokes of, like, millennials are so depressed and have such headaches because they're just not hydrated. Because I feel like what are they called? Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they drink so much freaking water all the time. And then there's me who's like, I know I need to drink 2 liters a day, and I drink barely 400 ml of water.
Yeah, oh, yeah, and the thing that's forced me into drinking water is I get chronic kidney stones. So about every 4 or 5 years, I'll pass a fucking chonker of a kidney stone, and I'm like, I need to drink water.
Yeah.
So that's why I force myself.
Yeah, both of my parents are urogynecologists, so I heard a lot about urinary tract problems and kidney stones. And the thing is, in Middle East, because it's so dry and so hot, you actually inadvertently consume a lot of water. And actually kidney stones flare up in people only during Ramadan, which is the fasting month, where you're not supposed to drink or eat anything from the sunset to sunrise, like from sunrise to sunset. And that's why the problem is not even that, you know, obviously the dehydration is bad, but then after sunset, they gorge themselves. And that causes more problems. And then you do it again for like a whole month. So my mom gets so many patients after Ramadan. So she's like, I tell them not to do it, but I'm glad they do it because then they give me money when they come over here to see me. But I noticed like when you live in the UK, because the humidity here is like at 80% just most of the time, you do not want to drink water. You think you get it enough from air. And I haven't really heard a lot of people having too many kidney stones, comparatively. But it's just bizarre. Like, I do think I need to drink more water. It's hard, man.
It is. It is difficult. Especially, I find it's more difficult when it's cooler. Drinking water, it just makes me cold. So when it's cold, I'm like, oh, I don't want to get cold, so I don't drink water, and I end up really dehydrated during the winter.
Yeah. Well, you know,
and then in the summer, I guzzle it.
You could drink warm water, like room temperature.
Yeah, I primarily drink room temp water, but it still makes me chilly. I would have to drink, like, heated water.
Yeah.
But I don't know, that, like... I don't know, I feel the need to make tea if I heat my water.
So, see, the trick here is get, like, a herbal tea satchel and just dip it once in there to give it a little bit of flavoring, and there you go.
Okay. I'll have to try that.
Because that's basically, like, flavored fruit water. But it's very diluted, so it's still water. But... it has a little bit of a taste because I think I went to Hong Kong for 2 weeks for work, and what I noticed is every time you go to a restaurant, they serve you not even tea but hot water before your meal. They don't actually drink cold water. It's not very common. They drink hot water, and I'm like, I got used to it. I don't know. It's something that you. I mean, if you're cold, this is something that you can do. I think, yeah. I know it feels like, oh, I should probably have tea. Like, why is it just boiled water? But
yeah, add a lemon or something. Maybe a little bit of ginger.
Hey, who's stopping you? That's still water. That still counts as water intake, you know?
Yeah, true. I guess at that point, the only thing stopping me is my desire to slice a lemon or slice up some ginger and put it in there.
Yeah. I mean, I find it's really hard keeping hydrated when you're in the lab because you're not supposed to have anything. Drinks or food. On. Yeah, and it's not even that. It's more like, for example, my experiment, like, I plan it, so, like, I got 2 hours of, like, incubation, but during those 2 hours, I'm doing prep for the next step. I need to make a buffer with, like, 20 parts. And it's gonna take me a while to weigh everything out, you know, make sure it pH meter it, yada yada. That's at least 40 minutes if it's got, like, 20 parts with detergent and other things. Like, and like, I know they're like, oh, just take 5 minutes and leave, and I'm like, yeah, if I do that, my incubation will finish and the buffer won't be ready. And so, you know, after 4 hours of this, you're like, I've not hydrated or eaten anything in 4 hours, but you can't leave. It's such a bitch.
Yeah, that's the one bad thing about science. Working in the science industry is there's days where you just don't get to sit down, or you don't get to drink water, or you don't get to eat. Yeah, it sucks. But speaking of drinking water, I just finished my water bottle, and I need to use the restroom.
So sure. Break? Should we do like an ad break?
Yeah, sure. Hold on.
I'm sure it's already happened, but like we can schedule one. Time it with our stream. Yeah, it's about halfway since the last one. All right. Let's go on a quick break. We'll see you in like 5 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever.
Sounds good.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
And we're back from break.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. We rehydrated, did
Yes.
background things.
Yes.
Now we're back.
We are back. I have this huge Stanley cup that's like, I want to say it's 48 ounces of water, which is like 1.5 liters or something like that.
Oh, damn, that's a lot.
It's a huge water bottle.
Must be heavy.
Yeah, it is. But I finished it all.
Wow.
Over the past hour and a half that we've been yapping, and at one point I was like, my bladder's very full. I need to go to the bathroom.
Nice. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I've shamelessly been imbibing on port. I love port. So I'll just drink it casually, like wine. I know. But thankfully in England it's so easy to get because they have this deal with Portugal since the 13th century, this trade deal. And they've just...
Oh, wow.
I think it's like the longest surviving alliance between two countries in the world, between England and Portugal. It's crazy, because I've been to Porto 2 years ago, and I went to the local museum, and the amount of just obsession with the British Empire they have there, I'm like, you guys, it feels as if you were colonized by them. It's like, no. We've just been allies since the Middle Ages.
Wow.
All through the entirety of the history, and are like still keeping a really good financial, touristical, cultural, and political like alliance. I'm like, this is crazy. Nobody has alliances that last this long. But yeah.
Unless you're a small country called Portugal who sells port to England.
Yeah, it's not only that, like, they have this whole, like, Napoleonic Wars, and I think they're, like, that solidified Portugal's obsession with, not England, British Empire, specifically, because Portugal was taken by Napoleon quite quickly. And I think they do say, like, the only reason they especially in the city of Porto, it got liberated was because, one of the two, there's two really famous British dudes who defeated Napoleon in the UK. It's Admiral Nelson, who is like, honestly, I've recently looked up his story, and the dude is insane. Okay, I will tell you more about him, but he crazy. Is the most famous like admiral in British history, and then the second one was the Duke of Wellington, who was like the second in command. They were both at the Battle of I think was it Trafalgar, I swear, or Waterloo. I don't know. They were both in both of those battles anyway. So the Duke of Wellington, who wasn't a duke at the time, was actually the guy who was leading the contingent of British soldiers who helped liberate the city of Porto through subterfuge, because of course the French took the higher ground, and I'm like, how are they gonna get out of this pinch? And of course leave it to the great British Empire of the time to be like, hey, you know what? We got a plan. And apparently they took Porto back in such a little amount of time that like the French occupying governor of Porto at the time had dinner made, and he was about to sit down for dinner but had to escape his mansion because the British were coming in a way. And the rumor is they took Porto back so quickly the dinner was still hot by the time the Duke of Wellington walked into the mansion at the top of the hill. Like, wow. I mean, of course it's all exaggerated, but this is how the local Portuguese and Porto individuals tell the story. So I'm like, y'all are obsessed. Y'all
are fangirling over here.
Y'all are fangirling, but like as well, like I've been to a Porto supermarket in Portugal, and I saw the port bottles that they sell there, and then I've been to a regular UK supermarket, and they sell exactly the same ones that just been shipped and without any like crazy tax on them. So, I mean, it works. So yeah. Anyway, big tangent. So fun thing about the Duke of the Admiral Nelson, he's the guy who like lost an eye. Yeah. Head case is correct. So he's the guy who lost an eye. He lost a hand, and I think his comment about losing his right hand was the fact that, oh, I can't be an admiral anymore. God damn it! I hope like his hand like got shot in the middle of battle, and they're like, oh, we need to evacuate you, and he's like, what do you mean? Just chop it off! I ain't got time for this shit. And he's already lost an eye. And like the dude died in like the final battle against Napoleon's like the French forces during the wars. In like the biggest Battle of Trafalgar, that's what it was called. Dude was like, they always compare like, oh, Napoleon's like, oh no, got sniffles and got a bellyache and died, and then Admiral Nelson survived I think was malaria, yellow fever, losing an eye, losing an arm, diphtheria, like all sorts of crazy tropical diseases, because when he was young he was like the admiral of like the Caribbean, like his galleons were like patrolling the Caribbean before the French Wars. I was like, my dude is made of something. I don't know what. Badass.
He's built different.
He's just exactly. He's built full different. It's crazy. It's crazy. I didn't know that. I knew he was like, I know why he's revered in both Portugal and England. I just didn't know how boss ass he was until I like looked into it. So, do you have any people like this, like, you know, historical figures, maybe in school or like in a movie, you've like heard about them and they're not really glorified as much in films like some people, you know? And then, like, for example, one person like George Washington is glorified like crazy in a lot of films. So you're just like, yeah, I've heard about him. I know he's a cool dude. And, like, even me, I don't know much about American history. I don't know about George Washington. But were there people who you're like, yeah, they're quite, you know, they're famous, I think. I just don't know much about them. And then when you learned about them, you're like, oh my god, why does this person not have their own, like, TV series in a theme park?
I'm gonna be honest. A lot of, like, the historical figures in the US, well, because our country is so young, for one, and because we pretty much only have, like, the Revolution and the Civil War, a lot of the people who are worth making movies about, their feats that they've done are more heinous than they are extraordinary.
Oh, no, but that's normal. That's normal. That's normal. Like, the majority of any of the cool, like, British army or military or government people, slave owners. And you're like, oh, okay. They just talk about it. Like, it's 100% a thing. That was the reason. It's, honestly, I find it so funny. The British Empire is the origin of all evil, but at the same time, you're like, you know? They're kind of like, yeah, we apologize, but let's just move on and do something else. I'm like, you can't glaze over this. This is kind of important point you can't just ignore. And they're just like, yes, but we also built the entire network system in India. We've done all of this. I'm like, yeah, but you killed all the natives. That went, semantics. And I find, like, I don't know, the British Empire gets away with it a lot more than America does, and I feel like they shouldn't.
Yeah. That is very valid.
Headcase said most of the pubs he's worked in predate the discovery of the US.
Makes sense.
I mean, that's, again, depending on when it was discovered, because there's been a debate. I've heard, like, there's evidence of Vikings actually landing in the native US back in, like, the Middle Ages. They didn't survive very long, but they did mention, they called the place Vinland, actually. So, you know, technically... And also, U.S. already had a very vibrant native population. By the way, if you're curious about that, I know a really good archaeology YouTuber who does like really informative, well-researched, and really funny videos on archaeology and anthropology, especially based off of like the native history of the United States. If you want, I can give you his direction, because I've learned a lot about like the truly ancient Native Americans, like back in when the pyramids were a thing, like that kind of thing, from like excavations on different cool like locations in the US and talks he's been giving. So if you're curious, I can send you his YouTube channel.
I do believe we rated out to him after a science roundtable, and I actually rated out to him after I painted.
No, it was I was talking about a different person. But yes.
Oh, a different one.
Another one. Oh. Another one.
Well, then sure, I'll take another one.
Oh, great, sure. I don't know if you know him, he's Mini Minute Man. He started on TikTok, and then he kind of moved to YouTube because he was like, I kind of want to earn money from this. But the good thing about it is, I feel like he's the type, he's not the academic. He has a bachelor's, but he doesn't have a PhD in anything. And I think he's realized, like, there's a big, he's against the gatekeeping of institutions, which, you know, in certain subjects I agree. And he basically, most of his stuff is debunking, like, conspiracy theories. That's kind of his bread and butter. But he does a lot more, like, specifically on Native American history, which I was like, I don't know about any of this. This is all new information to me. So yeah, really cool dude. Check him out. He doesn't stream. He mostly does YouTube, but.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'll have to check him out after stream.
Yeah.
Shroom said Roy Benavides, which is an American war hero from the time when the U.S. was still in Afghanistan. Basically, him and his people got ambushed on a mission, and Vietnam? Was it Vietnam? He's yelling at me from the other room. Apparently it was Vietnam. I thought Roy Benavidez was the guy from Afghanistan, but apparently I'm wrong. Then never mind. I hear him furiously typing in the next room, so I'm sure we're gonna get a message.
Yes.
So never mind.
Is yours the will actually type as well?
Only about certain things. Like this is something he knows a lot about, and I don't know much about it.
Yeah.
So I'm perfectly content to let him take the reins on telling this story.
Yeah. I find I've realized, since a long time ago, I have a lot of, like, I've heard about this. I have a vague surface knowledge of, like, if somebody mentions something, I'm like, yeah, it's that thing. And they're like, yeah, that's what I mean. But I don't know any more details than it's that thing. While my partner is the type that's like, by the way, I've read all the possible, especially when it comes to like Warhammer or fantasy. Like, I've read all possible things that are on this. I have my own fan theories. Don't read this website. This wiki is full like fan slop. This is canon, and I'm like, relax. I just asked a question. What is Horus Heresy? He's like, no. Give me 4 hours. I went, what? 4 hours on a whiteboard. And I said, oh god, here we go. And to be fair,
that meme of the guy from The Office.
Yeah, that's what he's like whenever I asked him to explain Warhammer lore. But he's actually very good at explaining, so I do enjoy it. Maybe I'm just a freak, but anyway. I do find a lot of other topics, like especially when it comes to space, politics, and sci-fi. He knows so many random details, and I'm like, how do you know this? It's like, I got a lot of free time on my hand to read. So I just go to him for details. I don't even bother. I'm like, I just ask him first, and he like, tell me.
Yeah. I also have a vague conceptual knowledge about a lot of things, unless it's what I work with, and then I can get very specific. But everything else is like, oh yeah, vague conceptual knowledge. Don't ask me to name names, don't ask me for dates. I won't know them, but I'll know what happened, kind of.
Yeah, I find I'm like this with science as well. So a lot of, I've done a lot of like outreach for structural biology for kids, like school kids. And they really get into it because they don't feel like they ask me a question, and when one of them asks me a technical question, I give them a look like, I don't know, don't ask me. It's like, no, but you got a PhD in this. I'm like, yeah, man. That doesn't mean I'm smart. Fuck you. It means I'm just very good at routinely following a project through for 4 years. That's it. I'm not smart, bro. Like, I know how to look up information. I don't remember it. Yeah, I feel like
this is where you teach them that once you get into the real world, it's not about memorizing anything.
No, but sometimes, it's really weird. You meet these young kids who are just so smart, and you're just like, wow, they're so insightful and smart, and they seem well-read. Shit, okay. I seem like an idiot. I should just be quiet. But then they ask you a question, and they look to you for guidance, and you're like, what am I supposed to say? Oh my god. I am honest at this point. I always tell them, I don't know. But to my best knowledge, to answer your question is yada yada. And then they come to me and they say, wow, thank you for a very insightful answer. I'm like, I pulled it out of my ass. You're welcome.
I said something that makes somewhat sense based on what I do know.
Exactly. And I'm like, hey, that's what it does, dude. Just make it look believable. That's the whole thing. Make it look believable.
Mm-hmm. As long as you say it with enough confidence, they won't question it.
Exactly. And the whole thing, like, I have a friend with very big anxiety, and during her PhD, she really struggled with, like, giving presentations and having questions asked. So she's okay giving a presentation. But if, I don't know if they do this in the US, but sometimes when you do a presentation, they interrupt you with a question rather than keep the questions to the end. And that really unsettles you because you're like in the middle of explaining something and somebody just...
It ruins your flow.
Yeah. Thankfully, ADHD, it doesn't ruin my flow. I just answer and I say, or like, next, it's literally your question is answered in the next slide, please hold off. And I cut them off and move on. But it's good practice to like, make sure you actually know your subject, because if you are interrupted, you can always go back to what you were talking about. But yeah, she always struggles with questions, and I never understood why, because she's very coherent. She's a great student. She's super smart. When she's with people she knows, she easily, like, she's relaxed, she's fine. But when she's giving a presentation, she can't answer questions, even if the questions are like, some of the questions that, they ask you, and there's not really a question. It's like, do you know that, like, blah, 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 and you're like, that's not a question you ask. You can't just, like, You can't just ask a question like this at a conference to be a prick. Like, just ask a question, you asshole. And for this, you're supposed to say, good question, but actually you're like, this was not in the scope of our research, and then, you know, you shut them off this way. But I feel like that is something you should just, she could have just said that, but the anxiety hit her so hard. I always feel so bad. Because, you know, being a great scientist can be completely overshadowed by, like, inability to fend off assholes.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there's far too many assholes.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And I felt so bad because, like, during this conference, we knew how good she was, but everybody else around us immediately, like, they were into this presentation, but the moment she couldn't answer these questions and started, like, hyperventilating, I could see the, like, the mood of the room turning, and I was like, come on, you assholes. She's just anxious, man. Relax. Like, don't be like this. Don't judge her for this. And I feel like that's such bullshit. Sorry, went off tangent there.
Oh, it's okay.
No, yeah, I just remember that moment very vividly, and I realized how unfair it is. Like, I'm pretty, not gonna lie, I'm pretty stupid, but I'm very good at going up with a presentation and saying, right, I don't care about my audience, let's see, am I teaching kids, am I teaching specialists? Whatever, they're gonna think I'm the best shit that ever walked into this room, and they do. Like, I, like, hypnotize them through just the power of bullshit. And then I see people who are genuinely good scientists, and are, just simply because they don't have the skill, are not taken seriously, and I'm just like, no, that's not right. You should be.
I don't think a lot of people realize that aren't scientists. They don't realize how much being someone who is very charismatic matters. Especially when you're actively in the field. Of course, there's the people who publish great research, they ran a Nobel Prize, and they're working down in history, and they never have to speak to anyone again. But for most scientists, your career and how well your work is received is more dependent on who you network with and how much they like you over the actual science that you are handing to them.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Which is dumb.
Yeah.
And that's why I went out.
I mean, I find, I don't know, we already talked about this before, but I find like in my field at least, it's not as bad. I feel maybe it depends, like most of us do research that's not sexy, okay? Most of us work on secretion systems. That's it. Like, you can spin it kind of sexy, but it's never going to be the cancer research, Alzheimer's, you know, viruses. It's always going to be like, oh yeah, that thing bacteria used to transfer DNA and do shit. Okay, cool. Like, only scientists are like, oh wow, secretion systems are insane. Some of them, like, literally like a syringe perforate the membrane of another bacteria to make it leak and die. Like, that shit badass. But then if you say this to any, like, you don't see this in the common media or anywhere, because it's not medically relevant yet. Yeah. But we know how cool it is, but I think it's because we are in this field where, like, we know we're not the cool kids. There is not much of, like, how do I put this? Dick measuring? There is some, and those people are the problem ones, but then the majority are like, we all know we're not cool. What is the point of trying to be the coolest one of the uncool kids? Don't. So.
Yeah. My lab, we work next to 2 flu labs. So on either side of us are labs that work on influenza, which is like a huge thing. They get a lot of money, they get a lot of because the government really cares about flu, which I get it. It's dangerous and it affects children, and yes, it's a problem. But like the viruses I work on are also problematic, but because they can't spread as easily as the flu can, it is overlooked, and people are just kind of like, not until yet. I go. But in 10% of cases, you can get a hemorrhagic fever that's really problematic. And hey, how often does that? Well, it's only 10%, and like it's such a small amount of people get it every year, and they're like, oh, okay. I was like, but it's still really problematic. Yeah. Please, the mosquitoes are spreading.
Yeah. I feel like it's sometimes like shouting into the void.
Yeah.
Freaking pointless. And this is where I find, surprisingly, but science, like, communicating this to the public, not through big media channels, because they will never let you on their media talk, you know? But through, like, YouTube videos. I found, like, a lot of people found, like, going back to that archaeology YouTuber, he has a really big following now, specifically because he was debunking some really dangerous like theories from people who were like, because any kind of conspiracy theories is like cancer. It starts and then it starts spread. Not like cancer, like a venereal disease. It starts with one person and then it just spreads, and getting rid of it is difficult, and holding off the spread is even harder. So, it's this kind of, if you believe in one conspiracy theory, you kind of believe in all of them. So a lot of them, like especially medical conspiracy theories, those are really dangerous, especially on a population level. So if people start believing in like archaeology conspiracy theories, then into like government is like, or like the academia and the smart people are hiding this information from you, you can sell them any kind of snake oil bullshit. We've seen this with COVID. And so his work, like he's been trying to make sure his content is like any person from the street, as long as you're at least high school level, I think, because it does get a little bit complicated. If you're high school level or above, you don't have higher education, you can still follow along and understand what he says. And he does provide references for further reading if you want. And I'm like, this is something that should be done for things that are not popularly important, because you're like explaining why. But as you said before, for this you need charisma, you need the time and the ability to deliver this information. It's really difficult to do, actually. So I don't know, I feel like we need more science communicators in the world.
Unfortunately, I would love a job in scientific communication, but you either have to be your own self-made content creator, or you get a job getting paid practically nothing for like 15 hours a week until they decide to make you an editor of a magazine and write like op-eds.
Yeah, and unfortunately, even when you are hired by someone, you do topics not that you think are important, or think like, yeah, I know this is only like in 10% of cases, but it's still 10%. Which, if you think about the way to do it, I find there's a secret technique of wording it properly. So when you say like, in 90% of cases it goes by fine, but in 10% of cases causes hemorrhagic fever, instead of that, don't use 10%. Say like in 3 billion people, I think, was it 30 million? Is it the 10%, 30 million? Or is it 300 million?
So 3 billion minus 2 zeros, so 30 million?
Yeah, instead of that, say, out of 3 billion people, every 30 million people could have hemorrhagic fever. And you know what? These numbers, I know it sounds ridiculous. Technically, you're not wrong. You would probably never have 3 billion people sick with it, but these numbers scare the people. And when you see this, you're like, oh, this seems important. Technically,
big numbers.
You haven't lied. But 10% sounds a lot less effective than 30 million people.
Yeah, that is valid.
And that is how they do it. And that is how to do it. It's a really interesting way of like seeing what works. And obviously short form media. Nobody's gonna watch I'm the one that's crazy that watches 4-hour Critical Role videos that will watch an essay that's 2 hours long about, I don't know, a great raft in America that had its own ecosystem back in the early 1900s, and then when it got destroyed, the river system of the Mississippi got completely fucked up. I will watch a 2-hour essay on that shit, but a normal person probably wouldn't. Again, one of the examples of the videos he makes. I would watch a short about it. And what he does is he makes a short and then says, if you want to know more, there's a video, and you're like, aha, I see what you're doing here. So yeah,
reel them in with a sample.
I mean, all of this has a system, and I feel like if this world would just get all of the unfortunate scientists working on important topics that are not seen as important by the world, and then get them a really good marketing manager who understands, and then having every lab get a marketing specialist who's like, I will explain to you how to lure in your audience without technically lying. There we go.
Yeah. I think every lab also needs their own website that's maintained. Unfortunately, ours isn't maintained.
Yeah, I feel like it's always the PI that does the maintaining, and they're always too busy.
Yeah.
And you can't give it to a postdoc, because the postdocs leave, so you're like...
I think there should be like a departmental team that helps labs manage their websites.
Yeah. That is extremely true, yeah. But also I find, like, these days, people don't go on websites anymore. I mean, unless you're looking for a job. You don't really go on there. I mean, regular population. I meant regular people find all of the information from either TikTok or YouTube Shorts or some sort of a Shorts feed. or the news. That's just how it is. Very few will actually go on like a university website to look up what people do. Ooh, stars.
Oh my goodness. Akira, thank you so much for joining the Forge. But yeah, it's just, I've seen some labs and their TikToks and like, oh, this is annoying when this happens to the pipette. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Lab TikToks kind of make me cringe sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, my old boss has a lab TikTok, and he doesn't do any dances or anything on it. One of them is literally his recent paper done to like a popular song. It's just figures for it. But you know what? It did the best out of all of his videos. He got 8 people asking for PhDs in his lab from it, and he was surprised. Wow. And I was like, what? Because I mean, it's cringe in the fact that it's a paper done to a popular song, but like the content isn't cringe. It's just like images from a paper timed to like a good beat of the song within 30 seconds, which I'm like, on its own, that's okay. It's not, it's not anybody doing a weird dance or anything, but like, it's nothing special. Why did it do so well? Because it's
How long do you think it took him to make the video? How long do you think he edited?
Not very long. He's a very busy guy. But I think it's because it's a good paper that has some really good images. Because at structural biology, one thing it benefits from is the figures. You have some really beautiful proteins looking like things. So you can, like, it's not just graphs. It's actual like proteins and formation. You can have like diagrams and everything, which to layman's eyes, it looks like a flower, or looks like a long tube, or it looks like a penis. Most things look like a penis. I swear to God, so many things look like a penis in like secretion systems that I work on. It's ridiculous. So, it's very visual. And so it's quite easy to adapt it to the regular audience. But I was more surprised that he was looking for a PhD student and he actually got people on TikTok asking him, and he was like, this is weird. But hey, getting good PhD students is hard. Getting good postdocs is hard too. So,
Yeah. Especially these days. Well, at least in the US, there's still a funding problem. There's NIH got cut, and a lot of the grant money that was funding people's labs was tied up in NIH, and it's a mess right now, but oh well.
Yeah, making my life more difficult because all the postdoc jobs are coming up now, and I'm like, I'm sure there's at least 30 Americans with crazy CVs are asking for the same job. God damn it. I don't compare. I've never had to work in such a crazy environment like they did. It's not fair.
No. It's too competitive.
Yeah, that's the point.
It's insane too competitive. There's a reason I didn't want to go for my PhD. It's just too much. Yeah. It's not necessary for what I want to do.
Yeah. I sort of started getting a bit more relaxed with science. I'm like, yeah, I'm good at this thing. I'm not an expert. I'm not the best. I enjoy it, but if I don't do it, oh well. It is what it is. Yeah. Because I feel like this is the problem of an overachieving kid, like in school, where I was the type that like, in my Russian school, we didn't do school rankings, but in my Jordanian school, they did school rankings, and I was always like in the top 5 of my year, and that gave me pride. My parents didn't care because they knew I had my own self. Like, I needed to get out of that house, so I was like, I'm gonna study. I'm gonna get a visa to go to America or UK or Australia, somewhere that is at least more than 7-hour flight away from you people. So I'm gonna do it. They knew I was self-motivated, so they were like, we're not worried, we're not gonna check your homework. They never went to, I actually got in trouble with school because I never went to any parent-teachers meetings, and when they did go, they're like, what's the point? All the teachers are just gonna say, oh, she's a good student, she listens, she does her homework, what's the fucking point? I'll just stay at home. Like, they were like, I don't care. So I never had that pressure, but to me, I was like, I need to be in the top 5 to even be considered for like, the school helping you write your university essays, or like applying to outside of the country universities. The school is not going to give a shit about you unless you're in the top 5. So I was like, all right, I got to be in the top 5. And then when I went to uni, I realized there's always going to be a smarter person. And then when I became a scientist, I realized almost everybody is a smarter person than you. So I was more curious about your experience, and because of that, I feel like in science it hits you harder that there's so many people smarter than you because you were always like the smartest kid in your class. What about you? Was that an issue for you, or?
Yeah, when I was a kid, before university, I didn't have to do things like study. I could just like pay attention in class and get good grades, and I did sports, and like I was in this like gifted program where everything was advanced and blah 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 blah, and I was like, oh, smart, and that developed a lot of my self-worth. As you mentioned, like, when you do well, puts a lot of, like, stock and reward in it, and of course, my parents were also like, "Oh, yes. My daughter is so smart."
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
it really tied a lot of my self-worth up in my grades. And then I got to university, and university was a different animal, and it wasn't like you could just go to class, show up, pay attention, and that was that. University required study, and I didn't know how to study. So for my first year in university, I was getting not A's. I got 1 C and a bunch of B's, and that, like, tanked how I thought about myself. I was like, "I'm not as smart as I thought I was."
Yep.
But, it did get better, and then I went on, pursued my master's, got a degree, got a higher level degree, and I work in science now, but I frequently oscillate very heavily between, "Oh, I'm an imposter, I don't deserve to be here," and, "Oh, man, I'm smarter than all these grad students, they're so dumb," like, because 'cause I'm a manager.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
to run the lab, and I'm, for lack of a better word, in charge of graduate students, teaching them what the lab skills they need in order to be good scientists, while the PI teaches them how to think like a scientist.
Mm-hmm.
I teach them the hands-on skills. My PI teaches them the mental gymnastics. And I find that in my position, I oscillate between, oh man, they know so much more than I do. I don't deserve to be like teaching them things. And other times I'm like, how do you not know not to cross your hand over an open plate? Why did you get a contamination? Are you dumb? Like,
Or like, it's the same logic when you can have a really smart kid who can't cook, and you're like, but that's a basic fucking skill, cooking. It's like chemistry. Like I find this is how you tell if a scientist can be a lab scientist. Is if you give them a recipe from HelloFresh, which has extremely detailed explanations and
and
images,
pictures.
and say, can you cook a dish that's not burnt, that is cooked properly? Because that is you follow instructions. However, cooking also requires common sense. Sometimes
Yeah.
your flame is going to be a bit too high, and you have to know when something is burning. There is instructions, and there's also like, this doesn't seem right. There needs to be a voice in your head that says that. And I can see with students who may not know any biology. Like, I got a pharmacy student who came to do a summer placement because they wanted to do a biology PhD. They had a lot more common sense than some of like the biochemistry PhDs who actually did this stuff in the labs. I think it actually depends on a person's, like, the way their brain is wired. You can't teach that. It's something like an inner voice, which it's not an instinct, but it is like common sense instinct thing, which I think it's developed through your society, through your parents, through getting responsibility at a young age, learning how to do laundry, learning how to, do this, the normal human things to survive. And then when you apply that, and then the idea of like, oh, so science is kind of similar to cooking. There is a recipe how you do it. However, the equipment you use, the pots and pans, or like the petri dishes, whatever, it's going to be slightly different from this standard protocol. You just have to adapt it. And sometimes you have to wing it a little bit. It's never going to be exactly what you want. I mean, sometimes you have to follow the protocol to the T or it won't work. And that's when you like really, but you emphasize that. A lot of the time, you adapt a protocol or you mix two protocols together. It's never exactly the same. And you need to have this inner level of common sense to like, hey, I'm not going to work on myself without a flame. Or like, I'm not going to like, try to run a centrifuge when things are unbalanced. There's certain things you just don't do.
Yeah.
And I know you have to be taught this, but however...
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. I tell them, hey, don't do this. It'll result in a contamination. And it's like they don't internalize what is either written on the protocol or what I tell them. And so it's just one of those things where I have a hard time letting go of the fact that they just need to make the mistake and let it fuck their shit up, and they'll never do it again. And I'm trying to prevent them from making the mistake, and that's where I need to let go.
So, okay, this might be a little bit of a sensitive question, so feel free not to answer if you don't want to, but I found, like, we also had a long-term lab manager who was the only one of all of us who didn't have a PhD. Mostly because, she just couldn't find one with her nationality, etc., etc. But she had enough experience to be almost the same, like, level as us, And when we respected her as a member of the team, her opinion, like, she knew more than we did. We asked her questions, right? But when we got new undergraduate students, doing a summer rotation, they didn't listen to her because she didn't have a PhD. Even though we would say like, oh, if you want to know this, ask this person. She's the lab manager. I don't know. She knows. But then when she told them don't do something, or this is how you do it, the level of respect was different. And I wanted to ask, like, do you, in your case, because you're of course encounter different people at different times, I assume people you constantly work with respect you, but I hope that happens. That's a bad work environment if that's not the case. But like, you know, new students that come in and you realize like if a postdoc tells them not to do it, they're like, oh yes, of course. But if you say not to do it, they're like, don't listen to you. Do you find that that's the case that happens?
I actually find that well, okay, hold on. Now, I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way.
No, that's why I asked. It was like, sensitive question.
But all the men in the lab don't listen. When it comes to the women, whether they choose to stay in the lab or they're rotation students, they're like, yes, I will listen to everything, every word you say, as if it's gospel, and I won't make those mistakes. So all the female rotation students and all the female grad students do very well. They listen, they don't end up making these mistakes that cost them time because it causes downstream issues. And meanwhile, like, all the men will ask me a question, well, except for my PI. My PI listens to me, and my PI tells everyone to listen to me.
Yeah.
But, you know, the graduate students and postdocs who are men are like, they'll ask me a question, and I'll answer it, and they'll nod, and then do the exact opposite. And I'm like,
Yeah, we've had
did you...
Yeah. We had a similar problem.
Did you think that I just told you this for shits and giggles? Like, you asked me a question, I answered, why'd you do the opposite? And it worked out poorly. Like, what the heck?
Yeah, I mean, the reason I'm asking is because we also had the same problem. Like, our lab is surprisingly most of the time, like, we had a male PI, and most of the lab were women all the time, which he got into trouble with at some point. But that's because, like, he did hire men. He doesn't look at gender. He just hires whoever's capable. It just happened that a lot of the men got more opportunities elsewhere, and they left the lab early. And so at some point, he had PhD students and postdocs who were all women, and he was the only man. And then at that point, he suddenly went, oh shit. Like, oh, I gotta hire a token dude here, because I feel this could be looked at wrong. It wasn't on purpose. It just weirdly happened. But I did find that at that time, we never had a problem. The lab ran smoothly. The moment we started getting any kind of like, I mean, not all, but we did get some male PhD students who, obviously they're new, so they'd be saddled with our poor lab tech would be saddled with them for the first few months. And the level of like, I was there, like, I'm literally next to her bench, right? I'm doing my own thing, and then I hear him ask her a question. She gives him a comprehensive, easy-to-digest answer, which is correct. And then he says, and then the moment she leaves, he asks me the same question. And I turn towards him, I'm like, you just heard her answer. It's like, no, but I wanted to ask you, like, why? Why? I've always been the scary bitch. Like, I've always been the one that walks into a room and, like, I can project, like, I always project myself as like, oh, I don't know anything, I'm not. But if I want to assert dominance, I have that Russian glare that, like, I don't know, somehow intimidates people. So at that point, I turned the full force of Russian glare. He never asked me another question again. He avoided me like the plague. But, you know, I get really pissed off when this happens, because this, like, and this mostly happens with men. I did see it happen with some women, to be fair. But mostly, like, of the younger generation. Like, I'd say undergraduate students now. So, like, I'd say Gen Z. Yeah. Gen Z is old enough now to be in uni. So, like, that, like, a different generation. It's a hit or miss. I mean, this only happens, like, I'd say, like, 2 out of 10 times. It's not a very common occurrence, but it is, like, it does happen. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It definitely happens a lot with the men in my lab.
Why do they do this? I just don't get it.
I don't know. I'm not sure. And I know for one, it does really feel like, oh, he is a PhD student, so he thinks he knows more because he gets more training on critical thinking, right? He gets classical training on how to critically think, not realizing that I have a of hands-on wet lab experience and also know how to critically think.
Yeah. Also, what I found is people with a lot more hands-on experience, you could be critically thinking your ass out the window, and then this person with a hands-on experience is like, you know that there is this equipment for this. Like, I know where it is. It's on the 3rd floor. Yeah, this could have solved your problem. You've been critically thinking around this issue. I could have solved it in 10 minutes if you just came to me, you asshole. Like,
or those very nuanced instances where you have an experiment, but it only works if you, like, I don't know, invert this tube exactly 3 times. And that's knowledge you only know if you've been doing it.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
So you, like, I would write something like that in the protocol, and then the student would come to me and be like, why does it say this? And I'm like, well, that's because that's what works. And they're like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna try it this way. And I'm like, okay, I'm telling you, I've done this experiment a bunch of times. I figured out what doesn't.
Yeah.
Why don't you trust me?
I agree with most of this. I feel like if it's a standardized protocol for something that nothing else works, then yeah. I mean, I do this, like, I was given this purification protocol by this other postdoc who left the lab. And I asked him when he was there, why do we do this step? Why specifically this step? Can there be any alternatives? Okay, no? Cool. Have you tried alternatives? Yeah, they didn't work? Cool. I wrote that note. I'm not gonna bother trying it then. You know, I trust you. But I did ask why. And then there was one step where we had to use a specific type of grid for our microscope. And it was such a faff to do. It took another 3 hours in addition to whatever time you did to make that grid. And then I was like, you know what? Logically speaking, from my knowledge, as long as there is a support, it doesn't matter what kind it is. So can we get commercially made ones? And then he wasn't in the lab anymore, and I was like, do I ask him? Like, I don't know, he's busy. I'll try it. Like, there is a way to do it that works, but I'm just gonna try it as well with the same protein and see maybe it's an easier way. And you know what? It did work. And I was like, why haven't we been doing it from the beginning? So when I met him again, I asked him, is there any specific reason you did, like, gold grids with this fancy 3-hour protocol? He's like, no. Like, have you tried the industry-made carbon that you just buy and you save 3 hours on your protocol? He's like, no, I didn't. Does it work? I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh, great. No one. Oh, okay. So sometimes this happens. But I feel like if you approach it with respect and say, I understand that this works, I will still do it this way, but just to save me time and maybe to try something new, I can try it, and if it doesn't work, I'll forget about it. I think it's the way you spin it. It's not, why are we doing this? And then you say, we do it because it works, and then I say, oh, whatever, I'll try something else. It's more like, oh, great, so that is something that works. Do you think logically this would work as well? I want to try it, and if it does work, that would save us time on this protocol. Do you mind, like, talking about it? I feel like that's a different approach. Like, because, you know, there's no protocol that works. There's always improvements that can be made, you know?
Oh, yeah, of course.
So, it's the attitude.
But that's a part of, like, optimization, right?
Yeah.
If you sit down and we're like, oh, well, can we better optimize this protocol? That's the discussions that are had. But protocols that I spent 6 months optimizing.
Oh yeah, no, I feel you. I spent 2 years. 2 years of this postdoc have been spent optimizing a purification protocol. I know your pain. And when somebody says, oh, like, I give a talk, and I get it. If they're not in my lab, they say, why don't you just do this? And I'm like, okay, for the millionth time, this is the 2 hours of what, like, here are all of the failed graphs and gels of the things I did, why it explains this is the only thing that works, and I have no idea why. It just
sometimes
does.
There isn't a reason why. It works one way and not the other.
No. And they're like, how reproducible is this? And I'm like, well,
yeah.
Out of 12 things that I make, one of them will always work. So to me, that's reproducible. So it's close enough. Oh man, yeah, it's just, yeah. Sometimes, this is why I feel like when people are like, oh, I'm going into science, I'm gonna know what I'm doing. I'm like, bro, most of the time, it's like, the way I describe it is a blind person, blind and deaf person who is in a supermarket with a written buying list on a timer that he doesn't hear. That's science.
And 90% of the time it doesn't work.
Yeah, so you have an internal clock of like, oh my god, I need to get this done. But you can't see the list. Nobody can read you the list because you're deaf. You're on a timer, and you do have a trolley, and you do have a sense of touch, and you kind of have to, like, do stuff, and you have to get to the register soon and make something. And I'm like, this is what it feels like to be a scientist all the time. And if you get used to that feeling, you know, it's fine. But some people never do, and they quit.
Yeah.
I've heard so many people quit PhDs saying, like, I felt too stupid. And I went, that's the point in it.
Yeah.
The point is to make you feel stupid.
Yeah, but unfortunately that creates complexes, because once they graduate with a PhD, sometimes they're like, oh, well, I graduated with a PhD. Clearly, I know what I'm talking about.
God.
And if you don't have a PhD, because I felt so dumb getting my PhD, that means you don't know as much as me.
You know, yeah.
That's an attitude I hate.
You know, I find as a person who actually thought I knew stuff before my PhD, and the moment I got my PhD, I was like, I'm a fucking idiot. And I feel like they haven't, whoever gave them the PhD didn't do a good enough job. Because I feel like the job of a PhD isn't to, like, you write a thesis and publish papers. It's to understand that you are a piece of grain in the sand of life, and you are nothing fucking special. And yeah, you can work for 4 years and defend yourself kind of coherently against, like, the whole point of a PhD defense is they're supposed to find the person. You do your project, right? In the world, technically, you are the expert on whatever tiny niche you're doing. Mm-hmm. To give you a good examination, they're supposed to find a person who knows more than you about everything that you're doing, who is gonna crush you during your defense. And if you can defend yourself kind of reasonably enough while being crushed significantly, and that person says, yeah, you know what? I completely destroyed their ego, but they fought back, and they tried, and they gave an argument. You know what? You deserve a PhD. That is what you're supposed to get. If you have an easy defense where you're like, oh no, but you know more about this topic than I do, so clearly I trust your word, that's not a defense. A defense is you are defending against the Titan. And if the Titan says yes, you pass. They've approved you. And even then, you feel like a complete idiot. Like, since then, I was scared of saying a word at work. And even my boss was like, maybe I got somebody too harsh for you. I was like, I don't know. Don't ask me questions. I was like, you did a PhD on this. You're the only one in the lab who knows how to do it. I'm like, I don't know how to do this. Don't ask me. Like, it was that bad. I was like, I don't want to touch it. I'll break it. I'm stupid.
I'm an
nothing.
imposter.
I'm nothing. But I feel like once you get through that hump, you realize the importance of keeping the, you know, in my opinion, always saying that, or like, from my point of view, and then saying something clearly very intelligent and smart. To other people, to you, it's a stupid statement, is what makes a scientist. And the moment somebody flaunts their PhD, I always say, like, you just didn't have a really good PhD committee. Because there is somebody in the world who knows more than you about a topic. There has to be. And if that person gave you your defense, you would not have passed with this arrogance.
Watching someone in my lab, specific, argue with the PI because they think they know more.
Well, you know,
is interesting.
I find, like, depends that, because my like old PI, he's a structural biologist, and my project was kind of structural biology, but it was also based on a lot of microbiology, and he knows nothing about microbiology. And so when we're discussing structural biology, of course, I listen to his input and I listen to his points. But when he's telling me something ridiculous experiment that microbiologically would not work, I know he has no background or knowledge about it. So I'm like, hey, I read enough about this. I've talked to other professors who are microbiologists who tell me this won't work. I am telling you, this won't work. And that's okay. Like, you know, this kind of argument is why they have students with, like, in the UK, a lot of students have 2 or 3, like, professors or two supervisors at least to have, you know, the 2 different inputs, and the student is the bridge between the 2. And that's when you can argue with your supervisor. But there isn't, like...
He's not that.
Yeah, I feel like if your supervisor... For example, in my case, it's easy. Like, if your supervisor is a structural biologist, you don't argue structural biology with him. You can argue microbiology or other, like, techniques with him, but not the structural biology. You listen to the guy. Vice versa, if a microbiologist is like, oh, you know, bacteria, you know, we grow bacteria, we clone it, it works this way. I have no idea how to visualize this. And you're like, well, as a structural biologist, you actually don't need, like, everybody has had before cryo-EM, everybody had this idea, like, we need pure protein, we need a lot of it. And then I was like, actually, I could just look at the entire cell under a microscope. You don't even need to clean it. And then most microbiologists would look at me and say, really? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, holy shit. And I was like, oh, yeah. I mean, early on, 2017. They were all like, really? At this resolution? I'm like, yeah, you can tell. Just give me your bacteria. I'll do it. And, you know, so this kind of argument is okay. But...
yeah. No, but there's a difference between having an argument about something that is the PI's expertise and not. And even then, I would say that most instances, when you have someone who knows something that the PI doesn't necessarily know, it's not an argument at that point. This guy argues. It's wild.
Yeah, I find the worst
anyway.
one. Yeah, we had a PhD student. He's changed now. He's graduating this December. Actually, soon he's having his Viber. But in the first year when I was there, his supervisor would say like, yeah, you're a smart guy, but your writing is subpar. Like the way you're delivering your no, genuinely, English is not your first language. I understand, might be difficult, but also the way you're delivering your ideas, you need to change the way you write, because as a person who's written all of these 30 papers and this book chapter and has read many theses at this point and graduated many PhD students, this isn't good enough. I am telling you this. It doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means rewrite it. Here is how you do it. And then the guy was like, yeah, and then didn't do that and was arguing back. And I mean, one thing is, like, none of us in our lab, none of us have English as the first language. We're all international. So
that's common in science.
Yeah, there isn't really a person with a moral background there. And our PI is French, but his English is impeccable. He spent like, I think 10 years in the US. So he speaks in scientific English perfectly. He has publications. He knows what you need. The other guy, the student is from China. His English is good, but obviously not as good as an expert's. And I'm like, okay, not even arguing about science. You're arguing about writing a paper when this guy has 30 papers that have been published and you have 0. Shut the fuck up and listen to what this guy is telling you. He clearly knows more. But like, it's the arrogance. And I mean, the problem with the lab tech was that guy as well. I think it's like sometimes it's just a person who has a problem. However, this is a good story because the guy in his second year, nothing was working in the lab. He wouldn't listen to anybody, and he went through a really big slump. And then something happened to him. And then suddenly, he just like changed his attitude. He started listening to people. He started respecting people. And then his science started working. And you know, he like completely changed. And I'm like, you know what? He changed genuinely because now he's a decent person to be around. I'm like, hey, sometimes breaking a person, it just needs to happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the military does. When you join the military, they break you down and build you up to who they need you to be.
And I find science needs that little bit of that. Like, you can't be, I feel like these days people are like, oh no, you can't say that to a student. Oh no. Like, I had a student who was so smart.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she remembered a lot of things. But she just had no concept of prolonged, like, this, you do this experiment and then the result of that follows into this experiment, then this goes here, and if that doesn't work, you try this. Like, she had no concept of logical, like, splitting of pathways. Like, she couldn't understand pathways. And I was like, how do you become a biologist and not understand pathways? The majority of what you fucking do is pathways. Like, yeah. Anything you do is, this goes into here, into here, into here. Point A goes to Z through multiple other points. And yeah, I was really struggling teaching her lab skills. And at this point, I just told her, hey, you could be maybe a science communicator, a science writer. You cannot work in a lab, girl. And I've been told
You're not cut out.
No, because sometimes you're just not. And then I've been told by a lot of my lab members, you're too harsh on her. And I'm like, no, I'm saving her so much time. If she graduates now with a bachelor's, gets a master's, goes into science communication, she saves 4 years of struggle that would have been a PhD that she would have probably quit or failed. And now she has a career and gets paid more than me and has a happy life doing science.
Yeah.
I've saved her time. What do you mean I'm harsh? No, I've been yelled at for this, so.
I mean, I will say some people aren't cut out for wet lab work, just like me. I know that I'm not cut out for PI work. I can't and I won't do grant writing. It's just a slog that I'm not good at, and I don't want to be stressed and dedicate the time to get better at it because it just stresses me out too much. But also, hold on, I need to address something just said. At the end, they said, I won't be able to go to a university and get a better job. You do not need university degrees to get a job that pays very well.
Yes.
There's trade skills, there's certificates you can get.
Yes.
You don't need to go to university. You don't need to spend the money. I'm just letting you know.
Yes, yes, listen, I would have done so much better if I didn't do my PhD. I'm telling you this now. The only reason my situation was specific because I was in a country on a visa, and it is much easier to get a visa when you got a PhD than it is when you got a job. A lot of places don't want to hire you because they don't want to bother with a visa. But universities, all of them are sponsors for a visa. So a lot of the time, it's easier to get one. So staying in education as long as possible until I had enough excuse to stay in this country without a visa was guaranteed for me. So a PhD was a good thing. But it would have been paid more if I quit early. Trust me. I would probably be happier. But I would have been a different person. So, I guess it's case by case basis. And I told you this before, you don't have to be smart. I write down everything. And because I'm such an obsessive note taker is the reason why I can still do science. I don't remember, I remember very little things. I have really bad memory. But hey, I feel like you can manage. I feel like science it's a state of mind rather than how smart you are.
Yeah. Science is more so a way your brain works in an alignment sense. Not everyone's brain is cut out for science, and that's completely okay. It doesn't mean you're not smart. It doesn't mean you're not capable of learning. It doesn't mean that you're not better. It's just some people are good at science and some people are not. I have a big science brain. My brain is very much oriented science, but it's not oriented towards something like history, for instance, or I don't really have the skills needed to pursue a trade school, or I could develop those. You could always develop a trade school thing, but I decided to pursue science because my brain just likes it.
I find if I had to narrow down science, I guess, to a certain brain mentality, it would be, at least when it comes to research. I don't know about other scientific jobs, but in research, you have a problem, right? You know that sometimes you know the issue, sometimes you don't know the issue, but you have a question, right? That you're trying to answer. And being a scientist is not knowing the answer to that question. That's not the point. Being a scientist is saying, okay, so this is the question. What are the possible ways one could answer this question, right? Sometimes it requires reading and seeing what other people did. You don't have to create a method from your ass. I mean, most of the time it won't work. You see, okay, did anybody else encounter a similar problem? If you find somebody who encountered a very similar problem, you're like, okay, shamelessly taking their protocol to try it myself, because probably will solve my problem. And then when it doesn't, you're like, okay, let's go back to the drawing board. What didn't work? It's literally problem solving. That's it. If you like puzzle games, if you enjoy problem-solving games, science is kind of that, except it does require a lot of reading, which I hate, but it does require a lot of reading. So that's science for you. At least for me, that's what research is.
Yeah, I'd say that's fairly accurate.
Pretty much. Oh, no, yeah. Sometimes, I mean, it is technically that. And a lot of it, creativity plays a big... the only thing, being smart can sometimes save you time. So if you are well-read and know a lot about the subject, before you start answering the question, you can already, eliminate certain points of avenue that you would have taken because you know somebody else did and it didn't work. If you haven't read that somebody else did it and it didn't work, you might try it and it wouldn't work, and then you're like, oh, well, it could have saved me 2 months if I only found that one paper about this. But even then, it's not the end. You still have the time, hopefully, to try the right avenue. But it is trial and error. So I feel like everybody who's like, oh no, I can't do science, I can't go into uni, it's perseverance, I feel, most of all. Perseverance.
Yeah, but also sometimes that perseverance, while it can be done, isn't worth it.
Yeah.
In the long run, because resentment, or you don't enjoy it, you put all this work thing that you're not really into. I don't know.
You have to be into it. That's the thing. I'm... The way you find a science... But the practical brain is perfect for research science, because I'll give you an example, right? I mean, I've told you this before in the previous one. We DIY'd this thing where we had a problem. We needed to apply a certain lamp with a certain wavelength of light to a flat surface of a liquid. And obviously this lamp would have heated up this liquid, and this would have made something inside this liquid die. So we were like, okay, we gotta keep it on ice. We gotta keep it cold. And we also have to keep it shaking, but it has to be illuminated by this lamp in a closed environment, because, we don't want any regular light coming onto it. But there is no particular machine that does this that we can find. So we have an illuminator, we have an ice box, and we do have a big shaker. We combined those three together, and it worked. It's slightly unsafe. I'm sure the electricians would come over and hit us on the ass and say, you shouldn't have this near a socket. But hey, if you're careful and it works, it is the only thing that works. So we just go with it. That is problem solving. That is problem solving right there. In a nutshell.
Yeah,
There we go.
The amount of times you have to build your own
God.
equipment out of existing equipment
Yes.
just so you can have something that works for what you need it to do in
And
a
sometimes,
lab is...
like, tape is your best friend.
Oh, yeah.
Tape and super glue. You're like, oh, you know, like that lab tape? Not the autoclave tape, that thing is flimsy, but like proper lab tape.
Yeah. Like the different colored lab tapes
that
come in the different sizes. Yeah.
But there you go, man. You know, I feel like this is my biggest issue. I feel like academia, since the history of time, because only the rich and titled people could go into university back in the olden days, they kind of kept it like, this is, if you go to university, you're part of the elite now, because they wanted to keep the middle class and the masses away from that and keep it in the family, as they say. And that attitude of, oh, if you go to university, you have to be the smartest, the richest, the most, no, the best person that ever existed, blah, blah, blah. You join an exclusive club. It doesn't cut it anymore, because nowadays back then, you couldn't even go into a library if you were a regular worker. Like, that was a hard thing to do. A lot of people were illiterate because they didn't have a standardized school system. Like, nowadays, on the internet, the beauty of the internet is, of course, there's a lot of shit and trash on there. But there's also a lot of ways you can actually learn new information if you have the desire and the aptitude. Universities tend to gatekeep a lot of this information. But a lot of people post in open source journals where you don't need a subscription to view it. And my old boss...
Elsevier?
Elsevier.
I love that one.
Yeah. So there's, I think it was Nature Communications as well, that you don't need a subscription to NatureCom to read papers. I know you need a subscription to Nature and Nature Micro, but I think NatureCom is like one of the only nature-related open source ones. And there's always these like preprint websites, like bioRxiv, where scientists just post their papers before they submit it to a journal. And that's okay nowadays. It's not peer-reviewed, so it's not being like rigorously checked by other scientists. You can post whatever the fuck you want. However, it is still, that is open source, so anybody can go in that website and check. So what I mean to say is, nowadays you can't gatekeep people away from science anymore, but the attitude of like, oh, I'm not smart enough to get a degree, that is still there, which I think just should be abolished. You know?
Well, even though a lot of science is now open source, the other issue is a lot of science is still inaccessible to a lot of common people because of the language used. And that's why we need more scientific communicators, to be honest. We need those people to translate this raw data into accurate as well as understandable for these people to understand the science.
It's not easy though. Like, as I said, I'm fully bilingual. I speak Russian fluently and I speak English fluently, but I've learned science in English. And every time I try to explain to my mom what I do, which is just a casual like phone conversation, it is so hard because I don't know how this thing would be in Russian. And I'm like, shit, how do I say it? How do I explain myself? I have a friend from Ukraine who learned English later, and she did science in Russian, and then she did science in English. And she's much better at this. And she's always like, oh no, I don't speak English very well. Then she writes a beautiful essay. And I'm like, bitch, just be quiet. How dare you? Like, I can't do what you do, and I'm considered a native speaker. Like, stop. But it's always like, I feel like these people should just get enough confidence and do like a YouTube video or something. Just do it. Like, man.
Yeah. The amount of times I'm like, oh, I should do like Bio 101 streams, and I'm like, I'll do it eventually.
I'll do it eventually. I never do it. I'm like, because I feel like when you work in science, I love science, but I don't love it enough to do it like at my time off. I'm like, I'd rather play video games. I wanna draw. I wanna talk about some obscure Chinese web novel. Like, I don't wanna do science when I'm off my clock, you know?
Yeah.
Some days I do feel like today. I feel like chatting, but it's less about the science. It's more about the experience in science. But you do meet people who are like, I feel like Vivi is the scientist 24/7, and I'm like, I don't know, I'm impressed. I can't do that. That's impressive.
Yeah.
But yeah. On that note,
sorry, I'm catching up on messages real quick.
Oh no, of course, I've been completely ignoring the chat. Sorry.
Yeah. See, so Wonkiel's a person. And that's not my brain. If history is what you're good at, there's jobs you can get either teaching. Of course, you need to go back to school and get a degree for that. But the brilliant thing about universities is that you can specialize in something and not have to worry as much about all those general classes that you don't have as much interest in and might be harder for you. Focusing is a brilliant thing, having a concentration. But also, if money is an issue, there's lots of grants you can apply for. You might not get them the first time around, and it might practice on how to fill out the forms so that you can get grants or, free money. But it's doable.
Meanwhile, make a video essay on YouTube about a topic you love, because I love this shit. Okay, not only Minuteman. I've always loved Chinese drama, right? And I know that when you watch the Chinese dramas, a person who doesn't live in China, even though they might be depicting historical event, they're like BBC drama. They're heavily edited to be dramatic, okay? Unless it's about the Queen, because that story is heavily dramatic. Anyway, I'm kidding. Like, The Crown is accurate. No, we all know it's not 100% accurate. You kind of assume whatever you see on TV, unless it's a documentary, and even then, take it with a grain of salt. It's dramatized for television. So, of course I know this, but I'm really curious about the actual ancient Chinese history and all the dynasties and all the emperors. And there was this really well-spoken, she speaks very good English, Chinese historian who does these fun videos who are like, oh, about this sea drama, is this true or not? And she shows references from ancient texts, actually reads them in Chinese and then translates them, and I'm like, you know what? As a scientist, the one thing I've learned is when I can tell when somebody's pulling shit out of their ass or somebody has original sources. Because that's what you do as a scientist. You're like, okay, I'm listening to this person. I can tell they know what they're talking about because they brought up an actual, book from the 12th century China and read the characters from it and translated them for me. That's how you know the person knows their sources. They didn't just say, this dude said because he heard it from this person who heard it from that person. It's like, I went to the OG source and I looked up this emperor and that is actually what happened. And sometimes the original story is crazier than what they do in the drama. At least in China, it's insane. And I've gotten on a deep dive of those essays, those 3-hour essays. So if you were really good at history, just do that shit. Just do it. People will watch. I'm telling you. I will watch. Send me your YouTube channel. I will watch it. For sure.
So you said something earlier where you were like, oh, they pulled out sources and you could tell you know what they're talking about. I suffer from when I'm on stream and I go off on a scientific tangent. Mm-hmm. Remember how we talked about earlier how it's we can't remember specific things like names, a specific paper or whatever, but I know what happened in the paper. God, the amount of times I'm on a stream and I'm like, oh, hey, there's this thing and a protein and this happens, but you have to trust me because I can't remember what the actual name of the protein was, I can't remember the paper.
Yeah, I struggle with this because when I do remember something like this, I don't know if it's a symptom of ADHD. Once again, I'm not being diagnosed because, again, I have this family stigma of if you're functional, you're fine. And I'm like, well, am I though? So I cannot continue the game. I cannot continue whatever I was doing if I can't remember something. I will need to pause everything, Google it, find it, put it in chat, and then be like, all right, 40 minutes later, I've done it. I found the thing I was talking about. Okay, I can now play the rest of the game. I will not be able to just continue the game knowing that I have an unfinished business in the back of my head. It will bug me through the entire stream. And then suddenly, sometimes if it's just a name, I will spend 2 hours playing and then the name would come up in my head and I would just yell a name out of nowhere. And nobody who asked that question is in chat anymore. But I remembered it. So
and then everyone's like, wait, what?
Yeah, so I feel like it's perfectly valid to stop your Twitch stream and just say, hold on, give me 20 minutes. And then find that paper and be like, ha! Found it. That was it.
I always have every intention after stream of being like, oh, I'm going to go find this thing that I was talking about and post it in the science social. I end stream and all thoughts leave my brain.
That's the same as well. That's why I do things during stream, because if I don't do it immediately, I will never do it.
Yeah, that's fair and valid.
Oh no. I'm just sitting there. I'm like, that sounds really bad when you just say it this way. Yeah, we're all messed up.
No, I think it's fine.
Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one. I feel not the only messed up one. Okay, non-science questions, because I feel like I love chatting science to you. This is great. We should do this more often. However, I want to know more about you in a way do you what kind of do you read non-scientific stuff? if you do read, what are the genres you like? And what's your, I want to say this top 3 either book series or genres or authors or, you know.
Yes, I do have hobbies outside of science.
Well.
I do read books. Lately I'm really big into different like romance genres. Like fantasy romance and dark romance, which
Girl, yes. I'm into it too. Like what? Give me examples.
So of course Sarah J. Maas, she's a big one.
Oh yes.
She's what got me
Miss
into
Moss.
it again. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer L. Armentrout.
Okay,
I just recently got what did I get? I picked up a book recently while I was at the airport on my way to Iceland. Hold on.
Oh, God, so was it mostly like a sort of a like straight romantasy kind of vibe?
Yeah, there's also some I like sci-fi, like Ender's Orson Scott Card. Love those.
Sorry, did you say Ender's Game? You cut off for a second there.
Oh yeah, Ender's Game, Orson Scott Card. Philip K. Dick, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? I really liked.
I've heard vaguely about this. I've not like met anyone who's read it, but like you know some books you're like, oh, I hear about them because they're like the top 50 something sci-fi of this year, and you're like, oh yeah. Like I tried. Have you read? I've at some point on Audible, I had this huge thing of like Lessons in Chemistry had like this huge marketing campaign about this book about this like 1960s chemistry teacher, chemistry PhD student, who then, sorry, are you familiar with the story?
I'm not, no.
Yeah, so it's a big thing, like, you got advertised, like, oh, the best science book, the most accurate science book of this year, or whatever, and I was like, alright, you know what, fuck it, I'm a scientist, I'll listen to it. And, it was about this 1960s, like, I think PhD student, no, she was a postdoc working with, which was very rare at the time, in chemistry, working with, some other, men. It was mostly a lot of problems with men at her workplace, and I think she started a relationship with one of, like, Cambridge graduates who treated her normally, like, one of the only men who was like, you're a scientist, you're not just a woman. She's like, great, thanks. And the problem was, I think she didn't marry him, she got pregnant, and then he got hit by a car and died. And she didn't, like, she just kept the baby, because of course she wanted to keep the baby, but then she also she got fired from her job because of sexual harassment issue. Like, somebody sexually harassed her and she talked against him, and she got fired for it because apparently, like, oh, you're a single mother, you're a liability to the university. And that's like the first half of the book, and you're like, oh god, that's so much drama. And then the second half of the book is, I don't remember how, but she managed to get her own cooking show, and she got super popular because when cooking, she was talking like a scientific process. Like, she was naming, like, water as H2O, and she was naming things in scientific, like, in chemical compounds rather than cooking. And a lot of women, which was the demographic at the time for cooking shows, were watching her like crazy, and she kept explaining, like, she was very, like, dry and very, I think probably she was a little bit autistic, but like the way she was explaining things was super popular. And then, like, I mean, it's a fantasy show, but like, it's a fictional book, but, and so, like, a lot of women on her show, like, I want to become like an engineer, this is my dream, and I've seen, like, you've done this, I should do it too. And then that became a big issue in America at the time, because they were like, oh no, women want jobs, we thought they just wanted to be housewives. And at first I read this, I was like, this concept is right up my fucking alley, I love a strong woman in history, let's go. But I found, like, I read the book, and I found the writing, some characters were interesting, but some of it I felt like it was written as a gimmick. Like, the author did do her research, but clearly they, like, some of it they have talked, you know, sexual harassment in the workplace, especially in science, is honestly still a thing. Which you're like, this is 2025, it shouldn't be a thing. It's still a thing. I've heard horror stories. I've witnessed horror stories. Not gonna go in there, but like, you're like, wow, are we the 60s? Why is this still a thing? So you're like, okay, this is the believable part. But then I feel like maybe I'm just picky. Some of the characterization, I was like, I get it, she's autistic, but you don't have to make her this. Like, tone it down. Tone it the fuck down. But like, I was like, this doesn't deserve the best novel of 23 or something. I was like, chill. But I'd say it's actually quite interesting. I'd say do try it. It's an interesting story, and it's a well written one, I'd say.
Okay, I'll have to keep an eye out for
Yeah,
it.
it's called Lessons in Chemistry. I think they did a small TV show about it. There might be like a short series. I've not seen it, but
but maybe watch it.
yeah.
It might be good.
I need to watch it again. I think it had like, what was it? I think the reason why I wanted to read is because I knew that one of like actresses that did really good in Marvel. She was in Marvel, but I'm not sure. Sorry, I'm bad at this. But anyway, I know the book's name is called Lessons in Chemistry. That is 100% the book's name. So just go from there. You know where to go to do. You know what to do.
I can Google.
Yeah.
I can Google.
Yeah. So my curious question is, do you is it just straight romances you read, or there's a whole genre of gay romantasy?
All of it.
All of it?
Yeah, I read straight romantasy, I read gay romantasy, I read lesbian, but they also call it queer. But I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I read all of it.
Do you
it's all great.
Do you enjoy historical fiction?
Yes.
Like oh, have you heard of the Outlander series?
Yes. I have the first book upstairs. I have not started it yet, but I bought it recently.
Okay. So, okay. Not to spoil anything, but also to hype it up as much as I can. I've read Diana Gabaldon's I think first 5 Outlander books. You have to read the side stories, okay? Once you read, have you seen the TV show?
No.
The TV show is amazing because it follows the books to the T. It's one of those only adaptations that we're so sorely missed by, like, you read the famous book series and you're in love with it, and you watch TV show and you're like, motherfuckers just went off script. Outlander is like one of those series that for 8 seasons, the 8th one is the final one, but 8 seasons, they're like, right, religiously, we're gonna follow the books. Some things we're gonna change, but it's not gonna be out of character. We're gonna change them only because we don't have time. So we're just gonna like wrap this up. And after reading the books, I was like, oh my god, the books do drag. Like, the first few books are insane. You read them in one breath. The first 5 books you read them in a breath. The 6th book drags a bit, and the TV series are like, yeah, it drags a bit. Let's shorten it. And you're like, oh wow, amazing. So 100% watch Outlander, the TV series. Best music, Bear McGreary, amazing, like, soundtrack writer. The actors are fantastic. The story is amazing.
Yeah, I'm very excited about the story.
Just shitting myself by how amazing it is. But one thing I'm gonna say is, I think the character of John Grey comes in book 2. Yes.
Okay.
Comes in book 2. The character of John Grey. If you really like him, which I do, there's not enough of him in the show. For my taste, okay? I don't get enough of him. And I'm like, my god. In the books, there's not enough of him. But the way Diana Gabaldon writes, she has the 10 big books, which are the Outlander series. And then she has the side stories. And there's one, like, an entire side series specifically for John Grey, which is, like, his adventures. Which is the type of books that I read, which is like, oh no, gay man in 18th century Britain. Oh dear, he has to navigate this whole system while being this, And she wrote an entire side series to explain his character. And a lot of it is referenced in the books and in the movie and, like, in the series. And you don't know it until you read the fucking books. And you're just like, oh, why did they do this? I mean, I know why they did it. For you to read the books.
For you to read, yeah.
But one thing is, like, the main storyline is my favorite trope. Time traveling, historical romance, a lot of smut. You have to have it in your historical romance. But also, it's not smut without plot. It's smut that makes sense and tons of plot, okay? Tons of political intrigue.
That's what makes it a romance and not a true smut.
Yeah, great, amazing historical accuracy to the point where I went to Scotland Museum after, like, I went to Edinburgh after I read the entire, like, the first 6 books of Outlander in detail, and then went into the museums, and I was like, right, the dates line up. The story lines up. Diana Gabaldon did her fucking homework when she wrote this. This makes sense. I mean, it's a fictional story, but at the same time, you're like, it's so satisfying to have a fictional story that is very heavily rooted in actual historical events, no matter how minor. It's fun. And you're like, wow, I love this shit. So, dear God, I'm gonna reread that shit. Read it. And also the TV show. Can highly recommend. They even did a prequel. I'm not sure if Diana wrote, like, her recent book I think might have been a prequel to the Outlander series, and they did a whole show on like it recently wrapped up the streaming on, I think, was it Paramount? I don't know, but the entirety of Outlander is on Amazon Prime, and I have all the box sets because of course, but the recent I think 3 seasons are on Stars, which is like an add-on to Amazon. But anyway. Sorry about the fangirl, but it's literally one of my most favorite historical fucking romances. It's so good.
No, it's all good. Again, my friend group, we all kind of read books together. We usually pick a book once a quarter and we all read that book. The one that they picked this time was Outlander, and
oh my God.
the person who recommended it pretty much said all the same things you said,
yes!
and was just gushing about it.
I feel like there's this fan group, right? The TV series, it's the type of TV series like Downton Abbey used to be. It doesn't start off crazy from episode 1. It builds. It takes time. Yeah. Just like Game of Thrones. The entire season 1 was like, where is this fucking going? And then the last episode of season 1, you're like, oh, shit. And then season 2, it all starts. And you're like, oh my God. So this is kind of how Outlander is. I think the first episode is a bit slow, but the pacing, the music, and everything, it's made for the female gaze, as they say. It's not naturally. It's made for both the female gaze, which is like, you know what they say, like the male beauty and the female gaze and the male gaze, and it's also made for the female gaze. It's made for as an LGBTQ. It's made for everything, right?
I loved that. As soon as you said it,
I mean, this is how it is, man. I feel because I tried to show like my boyfriend enjoys Critical Role. My boyfriend enjoys like all of this cool shit. Unfortunately, when I tried to show him Outlander, he got bored, and I'm like, no woman I have showed Outlander to got bored immediately. She was like, I want to know more. I want to know more, and I'm like, yes.
That's how I felt when I tried to show my partner, my husband, Apothecary Diaries.
They just don't get it. They just don't fucking get it, okay?
They just don't understand.
They don't understand the slow build, the subtle looks, the really, really, like...
tension.
You replay the same clip and you say, oh, did you notice she gave him a look behind the table, and what she meant by that was this, and the guy's like, she just looked at him. You're like, no, it had a whole essay in that look, how dare you? And he's like, oh, whatever, I'm bored with this, give me guns. And you're like sometimes I enjoy me an action film, right? I enjoy analyzing, like I'm reading this current Chinese web novel, which is basically all based on the fact there's this like ancient China kingdom that found oil. They call it liquid gold, but it's oil. It's basically oil. Yeah. They found oil, and they became an empire by forcibly stealing oil from the countries next to them. And then at some point something happened, like the country obviously started going into decline, there was a black market of oil, and suddenly, when the change of emperor happened, all of the countries around this ancient China attacked them at the same time, and they got fucked. And the only reason they survived is because of their general, who was the best and is one of the main characters, and like a prince of some sort of concubine that was found later, who's of course in love with the general, naturally, because I don't read anything that's not very gay. And basically you have a political intrigue that is circled around the prince, who's trying to keep the country together, and the general, who's like trying to keep the country together. But you'd think like, oh, it's a gay romance, there should be at least 75% smut, right? And then 25% plot. In this book, most of it is like, okay, political movement of troops. This is how they outsmarted this enemy. And I'm like, I love that shit. Give me military strategy up the wazoo. This is what like dudes would enjoy. I love that. Like any other connoisseur. But give me drama. Yeah. Give me drama. Give me romance. Give me torn. Give me torn self-discovery. Give me like, oh, I'm cursed by this evil demon spirit, but I must persevere, and I love this person. Give me that plus the military thing. I will enjoy it, but give me drama. This is why I love Troy, because Troy had the military shit, but it also had the drama. Like I mean, the old movie with Brad Pitt. I mean, it has its problems, but it's. It's the quintessential drama plus action. Why don't people make those anymore? I mean, I know Odyssey's being written. Like Odyssey's being filmed. I've seen so many like leaks of casting for the Odyssey. I think it was Nolan. Yeah, Nolan's making the Odyssey.
When I was in Iceland, which is where I just came back from vacation, one of our like Super Jeep tour guides was saying that there's a place in Iceland where they were filming like Hades' domain sort of situation, and they were doing the scenes with Hades' army. And he showed us pictures.
Oh my god,
and
is
it
that
looks
from the new
insane.
from Odyssey?
Yeah.
Ooh! I'm so excited.
I don't know if he was supposed to show us photos or not.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So I have two friends from Iceland. One of them is a VTuber streamer, and another one is just in my D&D game. But they're both like, anytime you go to Iceland, you're welcome. There's literally like 20,000 people living here. Like, we know almost everybody. There's like 4 populated settlements, and the rest is just volcanic rock.
I loved it there. I would gladly move there if I could.
Yeah. I mean, I was invited for somebody's 30th birthday to go there in 2027. I'm definitely going. It'll be my first time. It should be amazing. But yeah, no, crazy. Thanks for that leak. I'm looking forward to that. I know, you know, you're kind of scared of like, oh, these epics redone. It's the 10 Commandments, the Troy, the freaking all of this again. But it can be done well. It can be done well if it's, you know, taken attention to. I'm keeping an open mind. On that note, there was something when you mentioned Iceland and Hades, there was something else I wanted to mention. If you want a really good, gripping historical TV show with drama and military shit, The Last Kingdom.
Yes, I've watched it.
Oh, so good.
The movie, way better than Vikings.
You know, I watched the movie. Oh, better than Vikings. I watched the movie, and I was like, when the show finished, and of course, there's like the Seven Kings must die is the movie, and I watched it, and I was like, this needs to be another season. Why did they make a 2-hour movie? This could be a whole fucking season. This is too much plot in only 2 hours. It's all too perfect. I need more. It felt too rushed. And I was so mad. I was like, this could have been like a 10 episode fucking extra season 7, and I would have been happy with it. Bastards. I'm so sad it's over. That was a big. I feel like if a TV show, I cannot put it down. Like I have a rotation of TV shows I watch. Like I watch an episode from here, an episode from there. But if a TV show like sucks me in and I have to watch all 6 seasons, I know it's a 10 out of 10 for me. And that was Outlander. The Last Kingdom. There was one Chinese TV series which is like very Mulan-esque, and it's the only one I watched from episode 1 to episode 25 without switching to anything else. And I think there's like 2 more, only 5 I've ever seen I could not pause in between. Everything else, I'm like, yeah, I get to season 2 and I get bored and I move something else. But these 5 are the epitome of amazing filmmaking.
Yeah.
Have you got any like this? Like, you were like, oh, I'm just gonna watch like 2 episodes, then I'm gonna go to bed. And then 12 hours later, you're like, whoa!
Yeah, we were essentially that way with Shogun for a while, which I think is on Hulu.
I've always wanted to see it, but I've never seen it.
It's very good. So my fun like information that I have Shogun is they speak Japanese and English mixed in throughout the movie depending on the situation. But the Japanese that they're speaking isn't modern day Japanese. The actors actually had to learn like what the equivalent of like Middle English for this show.
Nice.
And I thought that was really cool. So it's historically accurate. Yeah. And it's dramatized, so it's not something that actually happened in history, I don't think. But there's definitely plot points that are rooted in history, much like you talk about. But it's dramatized for the plot. There's a little bit of a romance there.
Like, that's normal.
People die.
That's normal. Like, I find the reason we enjoy drama is because our lives generally are drama. And you know, the historical records you get, especially from that long ago, would never include any of this kind of drama. They would always only include the cold hard facts of what has happened, and the only drama we would get is from modern, like, especially I'm equating this to England, right? So you have your historical records, especially from, you know, all of the Wars of the Roses and all of that shit, but you get kind of the interpersonal relationships between kings and their relatives and kings and their people from the comedic plays and like the stories that go from word of mouth. However, they could also be a smear campaign. You never know. So you can never take historical fiction as cold hard truth. Always take it with a grain of salt. And whilst, like, for example, in Outlander, the Battle of Culloden is an actual historical fact. Bonnie Prince Charlie is an actual Stuart prince who tried to create a rebellion to defeat the current monarch of England, which was, I don't know, George II, George III, whatever. One of the Georges. And he tried to take back and make Britain Catholic again. Because they were the Protestant kings. And he has failed. These are the historical facts that you will get in any historical book. Now, what Outlander does, it takes these facts and it adds spicy juice to it, okay? It adds like, oh, there was a rumor that while Bonnie Prince Charlie was in France, he had a mistress. Or like, while, it's not an unsubstantiated rumor, but it's still a rumor that you can't really trust. But the book, this is why good historical fiction takes that and says, haha, I can work with this. And I'm like, juicy. This is what I live for. I really hate, I think this is not the case anymore, because I think my view is very common to historical fiction readers. But back in early 2000s, the big issue of like the Tudors TV show, of like, clearly they took a historical personage and, historical story, but they completely took liberties with what happened. And that is something like, even a basic Wikipedia search can disprove this entire TV series. Like, this is something I don't enjoy. I'm like, you clearly did not do your research. Something that, like, in Outlander, so many times it happened. They would bring up a character, and I'm like, this character seems interesting. And I Googled them, and I'm like, even Wikipedia them, and I'm like, oh my god, there actually were they were found in Wilmington at this time, and this has happened. Oh god, they're real. They're a real person. Their interaction with the main characters might have been fake, but like, they were there. This could have happened. Oh shit.
Yeah, it's fun to think about, especially since, as you mentioned earlier, that history leaves out all the little tiny interesting details in favor of big sweeping generalizations to get the point across. And even then, it's not always factual, these generalizations, and they're often written from the eyes of the person who observed, and that's usually biased. And that's why we say things like, history is written that. But the fact that they add these drama bits, like, oh, there was a mistress, or, oh, these two people loved each other, but they were from different walks of life, and they had to meet in secret, and she ended up getting pregnant, and it was a scandal. Like, it's believable, even if it can't be proved to be true, because stuff like that happens. It's like, oh, the stars, they're just like us. It's giving that energy.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, it's why people love watching, like, fake reality shows, or like, I guess, no, I would never understand it, because I guess people in modern age have such, you can document life so much. You can hide very little nowadays than you used to be able to. Before the age of technology and recordings and availability of self-documenting to every single member of society in a way. Technically, we will never know what has happened, because everybody who lived there who could tell the tale is long dead, and their memories were not committed to paper or any kind of other medium for us to remember. So I find historical speculation, some facts that have, multiple sources corroborate that certain thing happened. This is something you cannot deny. So when you have historical deniers, like, there was a great flood in the 17th century, and you're like, no, there wasn't. There wasn't a worldwide flood. Like, the Atlantis was a thing. You're like, bro, like, there's certain things where you're like, no, you cannot deny certain facts. However, when you're like, right, so this king was a king, right? He was George, or he was crazy. He married Queen Charlotte. Eventually, he had like some sort of a mental illness. He was treated by the medicine of the time, which wasn't very good, and so he started getting worse. And so the queen took over. Like, again, Bridgerton, the TV series. The queen took over, and she started ruling because the king was inept. Now, the story about that she actually loved him, but because he was crazy, she had, and you're like, okay, we don't know the interpersonal relationship between the king and the queen. She could have hated him. She could have loved him. This is something that you, as an author, have full literary freedom to do shit with. However, you have to put an instance of the fact that he goes inept and she has to take over, and that has to happen in the historical drama. Like, you can't get around it. This has to happen if you want this to be an accurate historical drama. The interactions between the characters that lead up to this point, it is your interpretation, and this is what I love. You can watch, like, I think China does a lot better because they have a lot of TV shows around the same time period, and they're done from different points of view of different concubines. So you watch, like, it's the same emperor, right? And he has a harem of, like, let's say 20 concubines, like, more than 20, but 20 important concubines, the ones that were named in the annals of history. And in Chinese history, they were just named by name, and maybe there's an excerpt of what the emperor said about them. That's it. However, what they can do is they wrote a story from one concubine's point of view. Then they made a TV series from another concubine's point of view, where that first concubine was a villain. But in the first concubine's point of view, that second one was a villain. And you're like, you know what? To these two women, this could have been a fact. It's like listening to an opinion. And you're like, you know what? You can't take it with 100%. It's entertaining stuff.
It's listening to someone spill the tea. That's
yes,
what it is. It's
that's why we love that shit. It's, oh god. I feel like once you get into Chinese drama, you never go back. That shit is, in one episode, you would have somebody get into a harem, dodge an assassination and have somebody else murdered because of them, immediately get on the bad side with the concubine and then get themselves an ally, and then eventually in episode 3 they somehow met the emperor and the emperor likes them, but and you're like, so much happened in these 3 episodes. I felt like I watched 2 seasons of an English show. Like, and there's 90 episodes of this.
Ooh.
When you think about soap operas, when, like, you have, like, 7 episodes and nothing happens, Chinese drama are the opposite. They do, like, the same length as soap operas, but they have an entire history of a person happen in, like, 3 episodes. It's insane. Especially, like, palace dramas. They're, like, that's a whole genre. They usually have a cast of at least 3,000 people.
Oh my god.
And they have costumes for every episode. They're usually very highly funded, and so you will never get any kind of LGBTQ story from this. However, because Chinese government. But
yeah,
if it's about a historical emperor, they do pour a lot of money into it, and they usually get a lot of funding, and the music score is great, and I can recommend a few quite good ones. But yeah. On that note, you mentioned about censorship in China. You were really curious. So the Chinese government, going back to our long ago conversation, Chinese government is, while it's very communist, it like tries to promote that the modern Chinese society is the good one. And for a while, after the revolution against the emperor, they were like, similar to how Russia was, like, oh, the Tsar is evil, fuck him, he's an asshole. Communism all the way. China went through the same thing around the same time.
Yeah.
However, even now, Russia does movies about Tsars and about, like, you know, Queen Elizabeth, you know, the Tsarina Elizabeth, Elizabeth the Great, Catherine the Great, all of that. They love that shit because that's historical, you know, it's a fact that happened. We've moved on now. We can make movies about it. China is kind of the same. However, what's really interesting is in the OG Chinese history, because they didn't have the Christian religion, they didn't have the, I guess, atheist beliefs even, like, it was very relaxed on the, it's similar to Rome, you know, how you could be gay as long as you had the primary wife and made children with her. Do whatever the fuck you want in your spare time. Nobody cares. If you're rich and powerful, you do whatever you want. You know, no judgment. And the religion, like the Confucianism and the Taoism and the religions they followed back then didn't really specify like same-sex relationships were wrong. It was like, you must, I think the main idea of China was like, you must continue your bloodline. So as long as you marry, have your children, you can get a male lover who lives in the same house as your main wife. He doesn't have the rights and the, you know, the economy that your main wife has. So, like, your main wife has inheritance, she has funding, she can, like, purchase land, she can do shit. Your male lover cannot, but she can't object to you having one. As long as you don't spend too much money on him. It was very, like, a very practical society. But obviously, nowadays, when you have the communist China, they're trying to consolidate their own regime. They're like, right, we're gonna, for some reason, gonna ban it all together. Even though China is a secular country. I'm like, I get it if you were religious, but you're not. So I'm like, why are you doing this? Okay, whatever. So they've just completely negated the entire history of, like, most of Chinese emperors had harem of both female and male lovers. They're all bi, I think, because it was like a power flex.
Yeah.
And so a lot of, like, unfortunately, the censorship is as hard as it is in Russia, where whenever you write a story that has LGBTQ-related characters, it basically has to have about 99% of a good enough story that if you remove the romance, it can be filmed if you want to earn any money.
Yeah. Makes sense from a corporate standpoint.
Yeah, and the thing is, bromance or cismance is a big thing. So you can have two female characters who don't. The reason how you know this is as an expert, I'll tell you this. When you're watching a TV show, and especially, I'm pro bromance, but there's a lot of cisman stories like this where you have two male characters who are either like sworn brothers or best friends turned enemies or enemies turned friends, and they go through a journey of political and military or whatever the fuck intrigue. But the thing is, they never end up with any female characters. There is some, like, maybe romance, but there isn't really, like, okay, male and female lead. It's just a story. When that happens, that's when you know it's been based off of a gay book. Because they couldn't show the romance. So they just went, we're gonna remove the romance and keep the story in. And it works. The same thing with you have two female leads.
Hold on, I'm getting a raid.
Oh, sorry.
I'm getting a raid. Hello, Yari. How was your stream? I'm here with Sylfania. We're just chatting.
Hey.
Currently, we're chatting about historical romance in China and everything like that. You were also just chatting. What were you guys chatting about? And also, if you need to raid and dash, please feel free to do so. Take care of your needs. Otherwise, you're welcome to hang out if you'd like.
I see your
completely up to you.
I see your D&D DM. Welcome. Welcome to the table. I feel you, bro. Same.
Yapped for a bit about D&D and stuff. I'm gonna lurk, but I hope you have a great stream. Amazing. Thank you so much for the lurk, and thank you so much for dropping your people off for a raid.
Yeah, thanks so much. But yeah, quickly to wrap up the point, because you don't want to lecture on the Chinese TV series, but if you're watching something and you're like, there is no male-female romance that's the center of the story, it has been based off an LGBTQ web novel that has been adapted, painstakingly redacted and changed. So there's a lot of like interesting like they never can actually write smut, it's not allowed, but what they do is they use like a turn of phrase that anybody who reads this genre knows what this means, and they just accept it. Like when I said like cut sleeve, it means gay because it's based off of an old emperor who, again, an actual legend from ancient China, when an old emperor had his male lover fall asleep on his sleeve because these have very long sleeves, and he had to go to court, and he couldn't bear to wake his lover up, so he cut his sleeve off and left his lover sleeping on it while he went to court, and that's why all gay lovers are called cut sleeves in China, or like in Chinese history, or like there's a dude called Rabbit God who was like the patron saint of gay relationships. So a lot of like they used to have a temple to him where people would go like and get married, and you know, the Chinese government was really angry about it, but you know, it's historical things like exist like this, and I'm just so, the way Chinese government just cracks their fist down on it, I'm like, come on, bro, you can't deny this.
Just let it happen.
Like, it's I get it if it's something that you feel might have been a new woke thing, but this is something from like 12th century. You can't make it woke. Yeah. It's too old to be woke at this point, bro. Just let it happen. So yeah.
It's similar to how, like, in nature, people always use the argument, gay, like, creatures aren't gay in nature, and yet there's hundreds of mammalian species where we have examples of, like, homosexual intercourse happening.
Yes!
And it's like, okay,
bro,
but I don't understand your point. This literally happens in nature.
I swear to God, sometimes it's ridiculous. You watch it and you're like, whatever. I don't take it seriously. I can't fight it, but I'm also like, I never subscribe to this point of view. I'm like, I don't care. Yes, how dare those two penguins
push their queer agenda. Also, my dog is bugging me. Can I let her out real quick?
Oh no, of course. If you okay with. I was wondering, because we've been chatting for about 3 hours. How long are you still okay going?
We could end here if that's what you wanted. We could always do this again later, but
yeah.
She is gonna start yelling at me because it's her time to go out and get fed and everything.
I wanna ask one last question before you go.
Okay.
Do you, on that note, do you actually play any D&D, or do you do any D&D?
Yes. Well, okay. I don't play any D&D currently, but very heavily into D&D before I moved. Current state that I live in. We had a custom D&D table that we built, and we DM'd games as well as played played games, and I miss D&D, especially in-person D&D. None of the online campaigns so far have really either worked out for scheduling because people are busy and we all live in different time zones or whatever, or it just wasn't a campaign that I was feeling. It just hasn't been the same.
Yeah. My question is, would you be up for like, have you heard of like other systems like Daggerheart or any kind of like RPG systems?
Yes, I have. I haven't played any.
Would you be up for a one-shot if I DM'd it?
Oh, a one-shot. Sure, yeah.
Okay. I'll, because I have a bunch of other VTubers who are like, oh, we've never played Daggerheart, and I did 2 one-shots and they really liked it. So I was like, I have this rotating cast of people who come in for one-shot, so you're not really committed to a campaign, but you can try it out if you like.
Yeah.
Sort of
I'm
thing.
done for a one-shot.
Okay.
I can't commit to a campaign right now, but a one-shot is doable.
I mean, we're planning to play some, I don't know, have you heard of Red Dragon Inn?
Mm-mm.
It's like a card game where you're basically a fantasy character who, after adventure, goes into an inn, and the whole point of the game is you're trying to get your constitution not to lower behind your alcohol level and get kicked out of the pub.
Dwarf drinking then.
Yes. So if you're up, it's like a multiplayer up to 15 players kind of game. So if you want to come, we're planning to do like a Christmas one-shot that instead of an actual one-shot. So you get to meet all the other people who do the role-playing games. Again, I'm just asking in case you wanted to.
Yeah.
So yeah. I will send you the details for it if you're cool joining. If you're busy, that's fine. We can do some other one-shot some other point. But
I mean, just let me know the date and I'll see if I'm available.
Yeah,
but I'd be happy.
Yeah, I have some people who are in the US as well, so I try to time it to be during like the day, on a Saturday or something, like on a weekend. So most people can make it. So yeah.
All right.
Awesome. Okay, this was really, really cool. Do you wanna raid out then, or?
Yeah, sure. We could raid out. Do you want to go with someone that
maybe someone that
know?
Yeah,
or...
I think someone you know, because I'm always happy to get new people.
Okay.
And follow them.
All right. Yes. I'm sending you a name right now in the
lovely.
Discord.
This was so much fun. I want to do this again.
I agree. I had a great time.
Yeah. Ooh, Hades domain sounds great. Do you do I have Frosty Tools that does like a specialized raid message, but it's up to you.
Usually my mod puts a raid message in. I don't know if he has one prepared for the stream or not.
Yeah, I'll have an extra one in case you want to use it. If not, it's fine.
Yeah, you could throw the extra one in there. It's fine.
Yeah. Awesome. Let's. I'm planning to raid in a few minutes, but yeah. I think for this year I have basically booked myself up to New Year's Eve. But starting next year, I might like start to get people I already know once again back to Ranger Roundtable. And I want to, like, sprinkle some new people I have met through, you know, I know this VTuber, who knows this VTuber, who knows this VTuber, that's kind of, so far, that's what it's been. Or like, oh, I've raided into this person, and I think they're cool, I want to know more about them. Let me invite them to my talk show, and, pick their brain.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds perfectly fine. I'm open to whoever you plan on inviting, and I'm happy to learn a new system.
Yeah,
also happy to hang out with you more.
Yeah. Because I feel like the only thing for the most of the like stuff I do is that like you need to have a tabletop simulator, which is a lot of people do, but it's good for like any board games you want to play with other people online. So that's the one thing you might want to get. And apart from that, everything else I got. All right. Thank you so much for coming. Lovely to chat with you. I will see you in your community later, and we're raiding now. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.